It's 6 o'clock, and I want to say before we start, thank you for being here at 6 o'clock, because as you notice, we moved our time to 6, and I'm delighted that you are here. We have a quorum, so I call to order our meeting for tonight, August the 28th at 6 o'clock. And I would like for you to stand, if you will, for our invocation by Bill Eason from Fellowship United Methodist Church. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let us pray. Almighty, merciful, gracious, and loving God, as we gather now in this place with important work before us, we are reminded that you call us to righteousness and justice. You call us to peace and wholeness. You call us to compassion and mercy. You call us to service and action. Bless now all who gather in this place. Bless the town council meeting that lies before us. Bless those who lead us. Bless our first responders who protect and watch over us. For those who lead, grant the patience of cooperation. For discussions encountered here, grant clarity of thought. For decisions made here, grant the courage for truth. Let us be surrounded with your grace as we practice discernment, wisdom, and vision. Keep ever before us the broken places of our life together, places of despair and disappointment, places of pain and injustice, places of neglect and abuse. Remind us that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. Remind us of our love for you and our love for our neighbor. Help us keep our vision and our purpose towards the common good of all people, a vision that benefits our children, grandchildren, and future generations. Set our hearts to beat in rhythm with yours, and blend us with all people of goodwill, both in this place and beyond, as this community stands as a beacon of hope, of peace, and of justice. For this we pray in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Where are our flags?
Our flags are over here right now.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Where's the Texas flag?
It's over in the corner, isn't it?
Can't see it. Okay.
We'll use this one.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Yes, there's the flag. Gotta have it. Again, I say thank you for being here. You have a full house. I'm sorry we don't have more chairs, but some will become vacant, I think, as we move on. Thank you for being here. Terry?
The public comments are all for the agenda items. I don't have any for this section.
Okay, thank you. So we will move to Community Spotlight. And again, I just want to remind you that the Community Spotlight is an opportunity for us to share what's happening in the community. And this is an important evening tonight because what you will be experiencing is in our community. We're grateful and appreciative. So first we would go with Terry, I'm sorry.
Okay. Number one, Dr. Hancock, Medical Director for Trophy Club Fire, to present to council the fire department's receipt of the American Heart Association Gold Mission Lifeline Award.
Good
Thank you,
evening,
Chief
Madam
West.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Council. It's always a pleasure to stand before you and praise our first responders for their service in the community. So for the 5th year in a row, your fire department has received recognition from the American Heart Association and achieved yet another Mission Lifeline Award, a gold standard in EMS. So this standard not only speaks to their level of knowledge, experience, and training, but it highlights their dedication and commitment to serving those who are in need of medical care, especially cardiac care. We have an amazing team of healthcare professionals led by an amazing medical director. So without Dr. Hancock's guidance, his leadership, and trust, this award's not achievable. So I'd like to invite Dr. Hancock to the podium to speak more on the process and to answer any questions that you might have. And Mayor, I don't know if you know this or not, but I know you appreciate it and you value this, but Dr. Hancock's also a Trophy Club resident.
Yes, give him a hand.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Tiffany. Thank you to members of the council for having me. I've actually been a Trophy Club resident since 2008, so pretty long time, a lot of changes. So a little bit about what this award means to our community and to our citizens. So this award is based off of data on the treatment of one particular type of heart attack. This is the type of heart attack where you have a completely blocked artery. It's what's referred to as an ST elevation myocardial infarction, also the most likely to cause sudden death. So obviously pretty important we pick up on this early and treat it quickly. So the way this works now, we've adapted a lot of technology. So when these EMS crews get called, they go to the house. First thing they do is get an EKG. If they look at it and their interpretation is that it's this type of heart attack, they immediately activate an app on either an iPad or a phone. As soon as this goes through, it alerts the emergency physician at whatever hospital they're going to. Often it's Baylor Grapevine where I cover, but it can be any of the other hospitals. It also immediately alerts the interventional cardiologist on call, so they know. It alerts the entire cath lab crew, so if they're at home, they immediately know. And this all happens while they're still at the patient's house. They haven't even left yet. So what does this mean during the day? We clear a cath lab table. Everybody's already there. So when the patient gets there often, you don't even stop in the ER. We go straight to the cath lab, and it's not unheard of from the time they arrive at a house, the cardiologist to have the vessel back open in 30 minutes. So that's amazing. 10 years ago, the standard was 45 minutes from the time you got to the ER to get in and get the vessel open. We're often, from the time they hit the door, 15 minutes, some of our cardiologists. So what does this mean? Well, anytime you have a blockage in any organ, you start losing tissue. And so the longer you go with blockage, the more muscle you lose. And so what happens, that never grows back. Cardiac muscle doesn't regenerate. So now you just have a big scar in your heart, right? So not treating this quickly, you wind up with heart failure, all kinds of complications. The sooner you get this treated, the better. And so this system's totally designed around that. But none of this system works if they don't recognize and activate the system. So we heavily depend on our EMS crews, and they do a very good job. They're correct the vast majority of the time when they call these. So really important. We're doing similar stuff for strokes now, same app. If they examine a patient, feel it's a large vessel stroke, they activate it. It goes to the ER doc, the neurologist on call, and what we have now are what are called neurointerventionalists. And they basically are taking people to the cath lab for the brain. So they can go in, find the clot. If it's a large vessel clot, they can extract it, stroke's over. And, oftentimes we can get these done within 30 minutes to an hour of hitting the door. So pretty cool stuff. Again, rely on them to activate the system. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So they've done an exceptional job. Every year I get to come and present this, and it makes me as their medical director not only proud, but also very confident I can trust their ability. And even beyond that, looking at our current numbers, cardiac arrest survival in Trophy Club and the surrounding communities is about 3 to 4 times the national average. That's exceptional. And that also has to do with response times, training, everything that they do. So we have a great group here. Very proud to be the medical director here. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you very much. Great.
Take a picture with us, Mayor?
Of course.
You're good.
Okay, Community Spotlight number 2, badge pinning for new police officers and fire personnel.
Mayor and council, tonight's that special night where we get to welcome some of our newest members to our staff. So tonight we have several police officers. One is promoting and one is new to us, and then some firemen that also come on board. So we're going to welcome all tonight with a special pinning ceremony. So I'd like to invite Acting Chief Tillman up and Chief Wise. Gentlemen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Pleasure to be here. The public safety community is deeply rooted in traditions. As the world changes, some traditions are so important, they must remain unchanged. The manner in which this symbol, the badge, is earned and awarded must never change. There are 3 times a badge is presented to an officer or firefighter. The first is upon graduating the academy. The second is upon being promoted to a higher rank. And the third is upon retirement. Tonight, we're celebrating 2 of those occasions. These are very exciting times in a career. The new officers, their anticipation of the challenges to come as a new officer or firefighter, also with being promoted, being recognized for your hard work and dedication to a leadership position within your department.
Mayor and Council, tonight these men and women will take an oath to protect life and property, and so it's important that we recognize them for their service in the community. Chief Tillman and I are very proud of these individuals, and we look forward to serving with them all. And to the families of our members, please know their service is only possible because of your continuous support. So thank you for being here tonight.
So I first call up our new officer, Officer Jared Foster, and he is being pinned by Leon. Where's Leon? Next is Sergeant Chad Crum, and he'll be pinned by his wife, Caitlin.
We have firefighter paramedic Athenia Barber being pinned by her son, Memphis. Next, we have firefighter paramedic Oswaldo Ramirez being pinned by his wife, Vanessa. And finally, we have Ken Rawlinson, our Deputy Chief Fire Marshal, being pinned by his wife, Lindsay.
We'll first have the judge up to come up and administer the oath.
Good evening. All the candidates for office, if you'd please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the state of Texas, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, so help me God. You've been sworn.
Congratulations to each of you, and if everyone would please give us a round of applause.
Before you leave, I'm wondering if any of the council would like to say anything to our new people that are going to be serving us. Anybody want to say a comment?
I'll make a quick comment.
Okay.
This is, if not my favorite day of the year or council meeting of the year, it's up at the top. It's so proud of you men and women, and just warms my heart. And the turnout, you can just tell the appreciation, not only from council, but everybody in this room, so thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
not only the men and women that just got pinned, but their families. Because families put out a lot of effort and a lot of grief and a lot of thanks. And we'd like to thank the family too, and the people that were pinned tonight. Thank you.
Carl, you want to say?
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, and I just say thank you to our chiefs, Chief of Police and Chief of Fire. We appreciate your leadership and inviting and bringing these new people into our town. And I want to say, as a resident, do not hesitate to ask for help.
I thought you were going to say pull you over.
Or they'll pull you over. Don't hesitate to ask for help. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. God bless you.
Congratulations. Community Spotlight number 3, Working for You, Trophy Club. A is update on Arts and Cultural Ad Hoc Committee.
I would like to, let's give just a few minutes for people to sit and exit. Would you say hi to your neighbor, introduce yourself? Oh, there's Kent. Okay, thank you. The next item is to give you a quick update to a new board, a commission that is being introduced to the town. It is the Arts and Culture Commission, and we are in the process and have invited 9 committee members as appointed to the committee, which will be introduced to you in September. However, this gives me an opportunity to tell you, the town, all those who are listening, those who are in this room, about the importance of boards and commissions to this town. It's my goal that we continue to activate this community in the governing of Trophy Club. And one of a key place to do that is in boards and commissions. So if you'll look at the screen up there, I would like to just kind of review with you the purpose of a board and/or commission and/or a committee serving the town has about 4 key elements. 1, you assist the council, you address specific issues, you lend your professional expertise, you facilitate the decision-making, and you engagement. Here's the important piece. You engage the residents, you activate the issue, the boards then communicate to the council, who then help to make a decision that then goes to the town, who implements. I can't express to you enough, when we look at a highly functioning town, your boards are very significant in making that happen. And the benefits is, number 1, a highly engaged community, and it facilitates decision-making. So my message to you, if you do serve on a board and commission, I want to say thank you. And number two, if you are currently on a board and our commission have not reapplied for this year, you need to get your application in. And number three, if you want to be on a board or a commission, you can go to the website, and I really appreciate Tamara gave you step 1, 2, 3, 4, how to find the link to complete your application. And I just encourage you again, get engaged in your community, and a wonderful way to do it is with our commissions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Item 3B, update from town council members.
Any updates?
I have something I want to say.
Thank you.
I just want to say we're coming out of budget season.
What did you say? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said I have one thing I say.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say we're coming out of budget season, and April and her team have done an amazing job. Just want to give a shout out and say thank you to you and Ernest and Deborah for what you've done to keep us afloat. And I know it's a lot of work, it's impeccable work, and you're appreciated.
Thanks. Come.
We're back in school, obviously. The heat hasn't subsided, but everybody's back in school. So just a shout out to the crossing guards. They do yeoman's work for men and women out there. It's a thankless job. A lot of times they don't receive the best of reception from some community members, but boy, do they work hard. So we really are really proud of them. And so remember to give them a nice wave and a smile, maybe. Give them a smile.
Dennis passes. Is that a surprise? No, go right here.
Well, I was on vacation, so I missed the
know.
budget meeting, so I'll let Dennis give us the update for that.
Okay.
And other than that, I'll pass.
You look like you've been in the sun.
Well, Mayor, I guess I got to give the update on the budget. The Budget Subcommittee has been meeting with the staff, and it's getting down to the final part, and it's being edited. And just recently, Chief Arata asked each of the council people to look at some possible projects and put some ranking to them to see what could be put into this budget for 2024. Heaven forbid I should say pickleball. So we have another meeting coming up, and we will be presenting the budget at the September 11th meeting. There is some information online for any residents that want to look at it and send comments in. Thank you.
Thanks. Isn't it nice to have somebody do your job?
I know.
Anything, Jeff?
I'm good this trip.
Luann?
I just want to tell you how much I appreciate having a full house tonight. It's so nice to have citizen input, and we've been very busy meeting with our subcommittees. It's a busy time of the year, and I just appreciate every one of you that's shown up tonight and those of you that are here to speak.
I would like to say, I'm just going to share something from my heart, and I'm going to tell you, I'm going to say, do not underestimate the power of your community. Invest in your neighborhood, invest in your community, because you will be blessed. And I thank each and every one of you, some here, some out, because I can see you, for the overwhelming support, love, and outreach to me and my family. And on the death of my husband, Jerry, but I cannot express to you, invest in your community, because you will be well rewarded. And God bless each and every one of you. Any other comments? Okie dokie.
Okay, 3C, update from town manager.
Mayor and council, we are working to do a joint meeting with EDC. We're setting some dates. We've talked to EDC members, and it looks like we're going to send an email out to you to lock in a date somewhere around September 6th, the 13th, or the 14th. So if we can get a quorum on this side of the house, we'll set the meeting up for that. So we've already talked to the EDC board and Palmer about that date. So that'll be coming forward. As you heard, we are working on the budget. That takes a lot of our time right now, so we're moving forward with that. We had our benefit fair for our staff. That went really well, so we're continuing that into next week. new IT transition is going really well. The new team is taking over ticketing and issues and working through that process. So we have another week or so before we have a full handover. That's going really, really well. And then last thing is schools. As Councilman Flynn said, the school district gave us 20 minutes between the middle school and the high school. It's been 9 days now, and we're really starting to see the benefit of that. There's still some little congestion working out, but our crossing guards are reporting back that that extra 10 minutes, giving us a 20-minute gap between the middle school and the high school, is really improved traffic flow through that area. So that's another good thing for us. And it was a nice thing for the school district to help us out with. So thank you. Any questions of me?
Any questions? Thank you for your work. Thank you for your commitment to see us through this transition, which I will take an opportunity to say, this week, your council will be interviewing 5 candidates for the town manager. So hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, we will have an announcement for you as we will be selecting a new town manager. So, and go ahead.
Item 3D is a quick civic tip.
All right, so the mayor gave me a couple topics this time and even told me to do a PowerPoint. So first of all, it's just agenda items. How do agenda items get on the agenda? So I've copied and pasted here a couple of your charter and ordinance provisions. So if general public is trying to figure out how does this happen? How do council members get items on the agenda? So 2 council members can always put an item on the agenda. The mayor on her own, or the town manager. And the reason why the town manager can do it is because town manager is, of course, administering all these projects. Town manager knows what's coming up next, and so it's the workflow of things. Same thing, future agenda items, the mayor or any 2 town council members. So how does this work? The mayor establishes the order of the agenda. Town secretary prepares the agenda. In section 1.03035 of your ordinance, it says Thursday. I think that's still carryover from the previous Tuesday meeting. So now that meetings are on Monday, that's more aligned with your charter. Probably just need to go back and amend the ordinance so that it says Wednesday instead of Thursday. So I've highlighted that. Provides a staff a draft to the town council on the topics to be considered. So by Wednesday, we should be able to provide a draft to you for you to consider. The ordinance also says that it needs to be provided 1 week before the meeting, which has probably never happened. So we need to go back and revise that as well. If the Wednesday is the date and the meeting is on Monday, then it's never been a week. Staff's deadline is 5 o'clock on Wednesday prior to the Monday council meetings. Of course, the Open Meetings Act deadline is 72 hours, so sometimes you'll get kind of a flow of items in after the deadline. And so the mayor has asked me to talk about this. And the reason for that is because you have a new town manager coming in at some point, and you also have a new town secretary. And so I think this will help kind of set the precedent and the workflow so that everybody understands these are the expectations.
Dean?
Yeah.
Notification for the meeting is 72 hours. In what formats does that have to be done?
Notification needs to be posted on the billboard outside, also on the website. And then I assume well prior to that, on Wednesday, y'all should be getting the packet, right?
Do we still have to publish in a newspaper?
No.
No longer, okay.
What newspaper?
Yeah, what's a newspaper, right?
So just another note, council members need sufficient time to review the packet. So the whole thought here is to get everything ready by Wednesday. Hopefully we have the agenda and all the packet put together as perfectly as we possibly can by Wednesday, so that throughout the rest of the week, you're not getting things trickling in and wondering why you didn't get it and trying to do catch up.
So you bring up a good point, Dean, and for those who are not as familiar with council, this is the process we're talking about. There is a lot of work that goes into preparing for a council meeting. And I'm sure you probably intuitively know that. But for example, and this is not atypical for this meeting, The deck that we received this week for this meeting, or last week, was 168 pages. And it needs to be that detailed because there's a lot of detail on any given subject. So we want to be as well prepared as we can to make the best possible decisions we can. So that's why this is so important. And when stuff comes in late or we just receive, we just don't have time. We can't even react. So when the process is working flawlessly, it does work. But there's a lot of work to it.
Right. Okay, so in addition to this, town manager, so town manager is coming in. What is the role of town manager? And you always have to kind of think of even local government on your executive, judicial, and legislative levels, right? So there's still separation of powers with your charter and with your ordinances. So the role of town manager is basically to be the top level of the chain of command for all the staff. So that is essentially your executive branch, if you will. When the town manager administers projects down, staff, goes up the chain of command, and then town manager can put those items on the agenda. That's how you get basically a lot of the items on your agenda. You have a charter provision that spells this out. Probably one of the most important parts of this charter is also that last sentence there, and I realize this is kind of old language, difficult to understand, but it says, in regard to administrative and executive duties under the town manager, the council and its members shall deal solely through the town manager, either publicly or privately. And again, it's just chain of command, separation of powers. It's so that lower level staff can know who their boss is. So I always kind of think about it like this. If I'm the lowest level staff in the city, it's my boss's 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 boss. That's the city council. Also, in addition to that, as far as administering contracts and project is concerned, I added this additional provision concerning signatory authority for the town manager. So you have to think about in terms of what can the town manager do today with signatory power. So the town manager's signatory power is capped at $25,000. Now, state law allows you to go up to $50,000. A lot of towns and cities will bring that back down. Some I've seen 15,000 all the way up to the 50,000 cap. So, questions?
Any comments? I'm just going to say I'm very adamant about us following our standards and our charter, and so that if any council person wants to speak to and work with someone in the town manager is your source, is your first point of contact. And is any other comments regarding this? Because it allows the people to do their work without feeling intimidated and challenged, either, not really, but just the emotional impact of it. Because a council person comes in and all of a sudden, oof, even though, so, thank you. Thank you, Dean.
The consent agenda. Item 4, consider and take appropriate action to approve the town council meeting minutes for the August 10, 2023 special meeting and for the August 14, 2023 regular meeting. Number 5, consider and take appropriate action regarding the third quarter investment report for fiscal year 2023. Number 6, consider and take appropriate action regarding the signing of the engagement letter for auditing services for the fiscal year 2023 and authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute all necessary documents. Number 7, consider and take appropriate action regarding an annual rate increase from Allied Waste doing business as Republic Services. Consent agenda item 8, consider and take appropriate action regarding an ordinance of the town council of the town of Trophy Club accepting and approving an update of the service and assessment plan and an updated assessment roll for the town of Trophy Club Public Improvement District Number 1, authorized improvements assessment, making and adopting findings, accepting and approving the annual service plan update and updated assessment roll, and providing an effective date. Consent agenda item 9, consider and take appropriate action regarding an amendment to the interlocal agreement between the town and Northwest Independent School District for school resource officer services for fiscal year 2023 to 2024, and authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute all necessary documents. And consent agenda item number 10, consider and take appropriate action regarding an interlocal cooperation agreement, ILA, for administration of fire protection services between the town of Trophy Club and Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1, and authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute all necessary documents.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor, make a motion to approve consent agenda items 4 through 10.
Second.
I do have a question before we vote. I'm looking here, maybe I have an old one. It's, oh, never mind, got it here.
Mayor, may I just add to the citizens, you can go online and look at the packet that we received in the 100-something pages that back up these items and read them in detail if you want.
Thank you. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, individual items, number 11. This is case PD-AMD-23-002, First Financial Bank. A, conduct a public hearing to consider a rezoning request made by B&S Southern Sign and Crane Service to amend Planned Development District 13, PD 13, Tract 4A to accommodate signage. The subject property is legally described as the Village at Trophy Club, Lot 4, approximately 1 acre, Denton County, Texas, and is generally located at the northwest corner of Trophy Club Drive and State Highway 114. The property is addressed as 95 Trophy Club Drive.
Okay, thank you.
And the mayor has submitted a conflict of interest, so she has left the.
All right, and I will chair this particular portion of the meeting. I will start out by saying I am a customer of First Financial. I have cleared that I do not have a conflict of interest, and I think I can make a reasonable judgment tonight. The way we're going to do this is on the public hearing, which is 6:37. The public hearing is open. Council will not participate in the public hearing, but will wait for the regular session. We'll have a staff report. If the applicant's here and wishes to make a presentation, they may. We'll have public speakers, and we'll close the public hearing. Matt, you want to start with the staff report, please?
Yes, sir. Good evening. So I know you all received a 8-page staff report. I'm going to try to make this pretty short and sweet. So originally, the bank, they had a monument sign, which still exists, and they had a sign on the building on the south side. They have, over the last few months, and y'all have probably seen it because it looks beautiful, they've expanded and updated the main entry and the south side. When they expanded that main entry, they did away with the 3 gables. They did a new roof line. And so their request is to add a sign to the front of the building facing Trophy Club Drive. They want to keep their existing sign that was on the south side, as per the PD, and they're allowed to have one on the south side. But that was the only place they could have when the PD was written. And the only note I'll make on the monument sign is they don't want to change anything on that, but since we were already bringing this and amending this, they wanted to allow to be able to go in behind the sign, take out the old lighting, and add the new efficient lighting on that. If you've got any questions, the applicant, they do have a representative here this evening, the bank, and we do have Commissioner Biggs here to give you all a summary of the recommendation from P&Z.
Okay. Commissioner Biggs, you want to say something about what happened in all the conversation at the P&Z?
Well, there wasn't a lot of conversation about this. Even though it didn't carry, 2 people voted against it, and that was primarily, I think they thought this was too many signs for one location. But the reality is the south sign was blocked when it was originally built. Meet You Anywhere was not there. And so they had a sign facing a business, not the street or the freeway or the service road or anything else. So really, this is the only building that's affected by this amendment to the PD. That was one of the biggest questions we had. What are we going to do? We're going to change this. Right now, it's going to be 6 other buildings going to line up in here and have 3 more signs. So we determined that this is the only, that is correct, isn't it? Yes. That was one of the biggest questions we had for it. And I think most of the people on the commission felt like this was a business-friendly thing. It's not offensive, and actually it's blocked by some trees out there right now. So if they want to spend their money on another sign to face Trophy Club Drive, that's fine, So it was a pretty easy decision.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Does the applicant wish to say anything? You don't have to, but if you wanted to, you're welcome. Okay. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you. Terry, any speakers?
Not for this item.
No, okay, so no one signed up, but does anybody in the public wish to speak? They have this opportunity. All right, seeing none, the public hearing is closed at 6:41. We'll open up the regular session at 6:41. This way, what we'll do is we'll have commissioner discussion. We'll have a motion made and seconded, and then I'll ask any public wishes to have any comment before we take any votes. Commissioners, start with Stacy.
How about council members?
Council member,
Council members?
you were on P and Z
I'm
too
sorry.
many years.
Yeah, I know.
You're good.
Okay, Steve?
Are you talking general comments?
Yeah.
I think it looks awesome. I mean, when you look at it, it's very professional, looks great. I'm with, when we were talking, if you're coming, from the south side, you may see the sign, you may not. The monument sign is a little lower, so I think the way it's presented was well done.
Okay.
No comment.
Carl? Yeah.
I've already viewed it. I've driven by the bank. I have no issues.
Luann?
I would like to disclose I have a checking account with First Financial Bank, but it doesn't constitute a conflict of interest. Unfortunately, I'm not a shareholder. But I see nothing wrong with this enhanced signage for the reasons that have already been stated by P&Z.
Okay. I will entertain a motion by somebody.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Any second?
Second.
All right. Motion by Councilman Beach and seconded by Councilman Munger. Any public wish to speak? Seeing none, I will ask for a vote. All those in favor, raise your hands. It's unanimous. Could you ask the mayor to come back in, please? And as the mayor returns, I only screwed up a couple of times.
3 that I counted, but who's counting?
Commissioners.
You're welcome.
Okay, this is individual item number 12, case SZ 23-001, Triple Crown Estates rezoning. Conduct a public hearing to consider a rezoning request made by Vasquez Engineering LLC to change the zoning from R15 Single Family Residential District to R12 Single Family Residential District on approximately 2.991 acres of land out of the Mary Medlin Survey, abstract number 832, Denton County, Texas. The property is generally located south of Trophy Park Drive, west of, I don't know how to say that, Balmora Drive, and east of Annandale Drive, within the town of Trophy Club. The property is currently addressed as 2304 Trophy Park Drive.
Matt, do you want to do a public hearing first, or would you like to speak? There is a public hearing, conduct a public hearing.
You can open the public hearing
Okay,
and then.
I will open a public hearing.
What
If
time?
it is 6:44.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to turn this over to Helen Eve quickly, but the background is this particular property is currently zoned R15. The applicant is requesting a R12 zoning. In summary, y'all will not see the preliminary plat tonight. It didn't get through, it didn't make it through the P&Z process, so that's kind of dead in the water. But the background is there's 6 lots. and 3 of the lots did not meet the R15 zoning. We don't have anything in our zoning that gives averaging, so if they're below the 15,000, it's just cut right there. So with that, I'll turn it over to Helen Eve. I'm gonna stay up here, though.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Good summary from Mr. Cox, and I'll give you a little bit of background and explanation on the zoning that they're asking for and how it might fit within the area and the community. This is a quick shot of the R12 zoning standards, and the minimum is 12,000. The current zoning is R15, which is 15,000. A lot of times when you look to determine if a zoning case request is appropriate for an area, you look at what's around the property. So to the north, you have a PD with a minimum requirement of 8,400 square feet. To the west, 5,250. The property to the east, the larger piece to the east is the existing R15 zoning. And as Matt pointed out earlier, they did have a preliminary plat that was coming through as well. And there were 3 lots that didn't meet the 15,000 square feet. I understand at that time the applicant had already completed full engineering drawings, grading, drainage, all of that. So to go back in and change the lots to make those 3 lots 15,000 square feet, they would have to rework the engineering design on all 6 lots for the entire community. So that's really what triggered the request for the R12 zoning. So the properties around it are compatible, or this property is compatible, the request. And the public hearing notifications were provided as required. At the time of at the time of packet preparation, we had not received any letters in support or in opposition at the Planning and Zoning Commission. However, in your agenda packet, the summary of the planning and zoning, which Chairman Biggs will also report on, we had a couple of residents that were concerned about the power lines along the western property boundary and would like to see those buried. So they did speak there. They were in favor of the project. They just wanted to see the power lines buried. And staff recommends approval of the rezoning request. And with that, I will turn this over to Chairman Biggs.
We had a little bit more discussion on this item than we did the signs, I'll tell you that. There was some citizen input from next door about those power lines and some issues which we didn't have a lot of data on. And several commissioners were really concerned about not having enough data related to the electricity, the amount of voltage going through those lines and whatnot. And I think that really was the reason it did not pass. Concerns about that and not having enough data to really, get over it, and no one provided that data for us. We do know that the city ordinance, we can't require them to bury those lines. I mean, as part of a plat, redo or anything else. So I really believe it failed because of not enough data related to there was enough uncertainty about the energy that's coming out of those lines to cause everybody to take a pause, or at least most of the people to take a pause. The other thing too is this site, has been up before us a couple of times in various configurations. And the last group that brought it, it was a density issue. He was trying to squeeze a lot on there, and he really didn't listen to what we were saying about just lose one lot and this thing will go through, but he chose not to do that. And of course, financially, things have changed in the last year as it relates to land costs and building costs and everything else. So this is a very difficult track. It would be easier to consider this thing as one track rather than taking this little sliver that they proposed out of it for 6 lots, which really caused a lot of issues. There's just, there seems to be, I don't know what it is about this piece of property, but most of us thought there might be a better plan somewhere in the future if everybody just considers it. The applicant did tell us that he was in discussions with the current owner to buy the remainder of the property, but had not not happened yet, so I don't know how close he was, but I don't know if he's going to come back to us or something else or not, but the energy was the biggest issue, the power lines with our commission. So that's why it failed. Plus, the other thing, once you approve of rezoning, the plat just kind of moves on down the road, you know, and there were too many questions about the whole thing and the whole development that derailed it for us. Any questions?
I guess I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
What?
This is a public hearing.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sorry.
no questions.
Public, anybody want to speak? I'm sorry.
Mayor, I have 3 forms, speaker
Okay, good, thank
forms,
you.
but they asked to speak in the next part,
Okay.
not in the public hearing.
We have some, yeah, you come on. Thank you.
Dean Murray, 2000 Churchill Downs Lane. My only concern is, and I know you're not voting on anything tonight, but if we make a change on that particular property, then the one that's right next door is gonna ask for a change also. You're gonna set a precedence. Now we're gonna have 8 or 10 12,000 square foot lots. So I would definitely be against changing the zoning from 15 to 12.
Yes. Yes, sir. You need, please come to and state your name and location.
Juan Vasquez, Vasquez Engineering. I'm the civil engineer of record, 1919 South Charlotte Road, Garland, Texas, 75440. So the whole point for the rezoning is not trying to squeeze any more lots out. Whether it's SF15, SF12, SF10, 6 lots is the most lots we're going to get. The only reason to go into 12, it allows, since we have a cul-de-sac, it allows the lots that don't face the cul-de-sac to be more uniformly shaped. So the first lot facing Trophy Club will be 15,000. The next 3 are 13,800. Then the next 2 around the cul-de-sac are over 17,000 square feet. So the average lot is almost 17,000 square feet. As far as setbacks, everything else, we're going to meet SF15, since we already designed it to SF15. And so that is the primary reason that we want to zone to SF12. We've been working on this project for over a year now. We've had several discussions with the neighbors. They had a plan at one time, it went away, we redesigned ours. Nathan, who's the owner, tried to purchase a lot, they told him no. Apparently it's stuck in some type of litigation, and there's a point now where Nathan is a resident of Trophy Club, he lives next door, he's gonna build his house on this subdivision, so he's 100% vested in this project. And he just can't wait any longer, can't carry the cost any longer, and we just wanna move on with the zoning. But I just wanna make that clear, the reason for the zoning is not trying to get 12,000 square foot lots, it's not trying to get any more lots. And Nathan Jepson is the developer and the owner of the property.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor Tiffany and council members. Yes, I love Trophy Club so much. Currently when I first moved here, moved into Abbey Moore in the property right next door. Taking my dog to the dog park regular, I drove past this lot constantly. Then when a property came available at 2032 Churchill Downs in the subdivision next to it, I purchased a home in there and been there ever since. When this property came available, I originally was working with the previous developer on the property on the whole parcel. It bowed out, it got into some litigation with the current owner and his siblings, is what I'm told by the realtor. So I went ahead and purchased the property next to it. Taking to heart what you said, Mayor, earlier, investing in your community, that's exactly what I want to do. I'm not looking to, these are homes that are going to be between $1 million and $1.5 million. The lots are, as Mr. Blasco said, they're above the 12,000. It's just to make the cul-de-sac work. If there's any questions that you guys have, I'd love to answer them for you.
Okay, do I?
Not during public hearing.
Okay, not during public hearing, so
Thank you very much.
I'm being coached. I want you to see that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Public hearing? Yes, ma'am, come to the front, please.
This is one of the forms that I received. Whitney Butler, 2916 Nottingham Court.
Hi. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. I just wanted to kind of share as a resident just our concerns, and I'm actually in opposition of this proposed development. I am pro-business. I actually was extremely supportive of Scorberg Company when they tried to develop this land a few years ago. And obviously for density issues, that didn't move forward. My concern here, you actually have been given the petition that we have started to oppose the development. In a week's time, it's been signed by over 100 Trophy Club residents. And so this petition is respectfully asking the town council to support its residents and require these lines to be buried to ensure the health and safety of each current and future Trophy Club resident. So I also, in 3 of your packets, I have original signed letter from another Abbymore resident who couldn't be here today and asked me to share her letter opposing the development as well. So that's in a couple of your packets as well. So I know, I looked at the town charter and the strategy map online, and I know 2 of the objectives is to foster a safe environment for residents and visitors. And it's also to uphold the aesthetic appeal and beautification of the town. So, you know, obviously these lines aren't aesthetically pleasing. No one really enjoys looking at them. Some person on the petition commented that overhead power lines look bad and the ones like these should be buried like all other developments in Trophy Club. And from a safety standpoint, my concern is power lines snapping. Obviously, this happens, that can't be refuted, the danger of power lines snapping. Now, the developer has proposed burying the lines in the front of the property, but not along the side, which is where most of our Abbymore residents live, on the lines that are actually hanging in our backyard now. And so I am concerned from a safety perspective that they don't foster a safe environment for residents. And, you know, it costs, we've reached out to Encore, $85,000 to $100,000 to bury the lines running adjacent to the Abbymore community. As you heard, these homes are going to be going for $1 to $1.5 million. And so I would think that there would be contingency to do site work. My background is in commercial real estate. I've done that for 17 years, and I work with developers. And so I just want to point out a few things, a few more things. So a few months ago, if you look online, there was a $38 million settlement, and that was regarding a lawsuit over the death of 2 people who were electrocuted by power lines that fell in their backyard. And so this matters, and this does happen, and I can't in good conscience support something like this when a developer is just not listening to what the residents are saying and their valid concerns. I reviewed the proposed changes in the ordinance that was in the back of the room, and I don't know how we can make the statement in section 2. The statement in section 2 says, and essentially this is because of the way that they're proposing it be developed, section 2 states that the adoption of this ordinance is in the best interest of the town and will further the public health, safety, and welfare of it. This is not in the best interest of the town, and it will not further the public health and safety of its residents. I'll just close with this. Again, I want to see it buried. It's a very simple request to ask of these lines to be buried. And I think the argument that these lines have always been there, thus they should remain, is not a valid argument, because if we viewed everything that way, then we as a society would not make any progress. Trophy Club is a high-end community, and I feel like we choose to live here for a reason, and we expect things to be done in a certain manner. All lines on this property need to be buried, and this is an incredibly reasonable request that the previous developer had no issue doing that and going above and beyond to make it to where Abbymore residents were actually incredibly supportive of that development. So I would respectfully ask the town council to be an advocate for its residents and not put the interest of a few who have something to gain financially over the interest of its many residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Other speakers? The public hearing closes at 6.
Hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Come on, Melody. Get on up here, girl.
Okay.
Take a deep breath.
Melanie Gibbon, 2920 Nottingham Court. I am one of the 8 homeowners that back up to the proposed development. We've lived in Trophy Club for 19 years, and 3 years ago, we downsized and moved to Abbey Moore from the lakes. We knew when we moved in that the land behind us would be developed someday. I mean, it's the only land that we know of in Trophy Club that's sat empty for years. We've enjoyed the shade from all the trees and the numerous wildlife, deer. My husband cut a hole in the back fence so that I could look out and see the deer. And now all I see is piles of dirt being dumped back there and trash and dead trees, which wasn't even on my letter here. So shortly after moving in 3 years ago, Skorberg, the developer, approached us with plans for developing the land, and he promised all of us backing up to that land a new fence. 2 feet taller than what we have already, because we're going to have 2-story houses looking down into our property, which in Abbey Moore, we have very small backyards. But more than that, he promised to bury the power lines that are hanging over our yard now. So, which brings me to why I'm here. The new developer, Vasquez Engineering, has no intention of burying the power lines. Per Encore, these are high-voltage distribution lines. I'm not knowledgeable regarding emissions that these lines have, but it does give me pause, as I spend a lot of time in my backyard with my grandchild. Several of the lines actually hang over my backyard, and in the event of another snowmageddon, we could run the risk of those snapping and have a live wire in our yard. Apart from the health risks, they are also unattractive and would fit better in our beautiful community if they were buried to match the rest of Trophy Club. There are several new neighborhoods going in. All of their electrical lines are being buried, and this development should be held to the same standard. Also feel that anyone that would buy a lot and build a $1.2 million house on it would not want a power pole in their backyard with 4 lines hanging over their yard. I'm asking the town council to support your residents and impose the development by Vasquez Engineering contingent on them burying the power lines. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Melody.
Good evening. I'm Jason Butler. I live at 2916 Nottingham Court. I think a lot of this has been covered, but I'm going to give just a little bit of history just behind kind of what's happened with the poles. So we had a pole that was leaning probably about a year ago. I reached out to Encore, let them know that I felt it was a danger. They've now replaced the pole, and they've now moved the pole over. It's now hanging, the lines are now hanging in my backyard. So I've got serious concerns just simply around, yes, we can talk about EMF and all those things, but what I'm really concerned about more is just the fact that we've got neighbors in the area that have pools. I have a hot tub. I have a 1-year-old son. We have pets. None of us feel like we can use our backyard anymore. The poles have now been moved. The lines are now hanging in our backyard. We need help. I'm not here just representing myself or my wife or my family. I'm here representing all my neighbors, here representing Abbey Moore. Frankly, I'm representing everybody in Trophy Club, because when I look around, all of us have made a pretty significant investment to live here. And I think we all moved here for a reason. We all want high standards. We all want a nice place to live. I understand the economics. I work at Schwab. I'm here locally. I'm a certified public accountant. I understand how money works. I understand why the developer doesn't want to do it. We need to find a way. It's the right thing to do. At the end of the day, nobody wants the liability if anybody gets harmed. And believe you me, $100,000 will be nothing if those lines come down and somebody gets hurt. If you have any questions afterward, when the public hearing's over, I'm happy to answer them, but the voltage coming off those lines is 24,900 volts. So it's not just your standard power line, it's a high distribution line that comes directly from the substation in South Lake. So I just ask you to vote your conscience, and if you have any questions later, I'm happy to answer them for you. Thank you.
Other comments? I can close the public hearing at 7:04, please. And comments from the,
Mayor, may I?
yes,
Okay.
I know you're just dying.
Question for Dean. can we approve zoning with a condition?
No, you may not.
No.
This is a straight zoning case, so unfortunately, I understand.
Okay.
The
No,
argument
that's,
being
I already knew that, but I just wanted everybody else to know it.
I knew that you knew that.
You've had
All
a
right.
few discussions on
And
this.
I got on the staff report where it says the proposed zoning of R12 single-family residential district is appropriate for this parcel of land. Let me just say that I disagree with that and don't see any reason for staff to have recommended approval. They should have recommended consideration because we've already rejected higher density on this whole track, both of them together. So I don't see that being appropriate. The other question I have, I guess this may be Matt, is there a reason why we can't just let the wires in front stay where they're at and have the developer spend the money burying the land, the lines against Abbey Moore?
No, that's really a developer question.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then my other questions is, this is a straight zoning to R12. Once the council, if, I'm only one of whatever, but if the council was to approve this, then it's zoned R12. The developer does not have any commitment to develop anything but R12. I know he's got plans to do something, but he doesn't have to. And over the years of Trophy Club being a town, there have been many times where developers come in, get their zoning, and then forget it, and for whatever, any number of good reasons why they don't develop. So there's no commitment. This should have been done as a PD, where if we had approved the 6 lots or whatever, it would have been a commitment as a PD. The other thing is, if we do this to R12, then the precedent is the property next door, which is much larger, at least twice as much size, has a reason to come in for R12 zoning. If they do, we've already rejected, or as a town, that type of zoning because of the density. And the density has nothing to do with whether or not it's next to Abbey Moore, which has a high density or whatever. If I remember correctly, the issues at that time were this whole area funnels down to one intersection. So any additional density besides what's planned does nothing but help the congestion of our town. And that congestion happens to be where the capital improvement has $6 million worth to try and do something about it. I don't see the reason to do this. Now, burying the lines, it doesn't, I don't know if I agree with any medical reasons, but aesthetically, everything in this town, except for the older pre-town areas, are buried lines. Now, we do have, for those that are not familiar with, some of the older original neighborhoods have some distribution lines coming in on poles, and they're still there. So, as I'm saying, I think this should be denied and ask the applicant to come back with a PD. Thank you.
Other comments?
Mayor?
Yes.
So Dennis brought up a good point. Matt, you can go back up there again. I want to make sure we're all understanding what is being proposed here, especially me, to understand, because we have the issue of the proposed change from R15 to R12, right? It's a zoning discussion.
Yes.
All the other issues, the power lines, I mean, that's another discussion, right? I mean, it's two separate issues. And the reason I say that is if the builder didn't have this issue where he decided to have two smaller lots and never came before this council or P&Z, the power line issue would still be there, right? I mean, the power line like it, don't like it, hate it, whatever your opinion is, I'm going to make sure I'm not confusing it with the request in front of us, which is zoning.
So it's, right now it's R15. If the developer came in and dropped off a preliminary plat, and those 3 lots were changed to 15,001, then there would be no rezoning, and it would just take the normal preliminary plat.
Which is my point, that would have nothing to do with power lines, correct? The power line discussion we're having is totally separate. I'm not saying you're wrong or don't disagree, or whether I like it or, doesn't matter.
That's correct.
We're talking about a zoning issue, correct?
Yes, and what you touched on earlier, I don't have the example in front of you, but if you look at R12 and R15 and just those 2 charts, the 90-foot widths, the 110 depths, the build lines, the setbacks, they're the same. The only difference between an R12 and an R15 is the lot square footage. So that's where we sit on that.
So to follow up with Steve, are we approving a zoning, a rezoning, separate from a discussion of the power lines? I mean, my question is this: we're confusing the two, and we need to separate them so that we're dealing with them individually, I think.
That's right. This is straight zoning case. This is not a PD.
So that if we choose to approve the zoning, then all of these concerns can come back to the builder to deal with?
No.
Well, then let's clarify that, please.
If I could, counsel, the zoning ordinance regulates the minimum lot size and the setbacks. The subdivision ordinance regulates platting as well as undergrounding of utilities. So that's the distinction. We're looking at land use and minimum standards, whereas the platting and engineering design standards, that's what tells you how everything has to be put together, and 5-foot or 10-foot utility easements. So that's where the confusion is. It's separate now because the plat died at P&Z. So this is, you're correct, it is just zoning.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There's nothing in our subdivision regulations that requires those lines to be buried because they're distribution lines. And the town does not have the authority during platting or subdividing or any developing. Having read the ordinance an hour ago again, there's nothing in there that would require that, okay? So understand you're correct. This is straight zoning, and this has to do with the density and what can happen out there. And but that doesn't mean that we can leave the idea that, well, we'll handle and we'll discuss this at platting. Yes, we will discuss it at platting, but it's still not going to mean anything. And the other thing is, if the owner, applicant, wishes to develop the property as R15, which it is, he's not required to, at any time, to bury those lots, those lines. Thank you.
Mayor, it is only a question of rezoning. The side issues, though they're important, and though we would like to think that the developer could come up with a solution, I liked what Mayor Pro Tem Sheridan suggested. Leave the one and bury the other. But really, that's not to be debated here. All we're debating, and from what I understand from Community Development Director Matt Cox, is our setbacks, everything's the same on an R15 as on an R12. So they've already designed it for an R15. All we're talking about is 3 lots that are going to be around 13,000 square feet.
13.9, almost 14.
Right. So all we're talking about, and the only question that should come up, and the only thing that should be debated is will we allow this zoning to go forward? And I really don't see where we as a body can refuse it.
Okay, can I make a comment? When you zone it to R12 from R15, the platting, whether or not they're 17,000 square foot lots, 13,000 square foot lots, whether they're 6 lots or whatever, is totally immaterial. You've already approved for R12, and at any time, they can come back in and put 10, 11 lots on there without any, because it's R12. So you can't put the plat as he's proposed it with the zoning.
Mayor Pro Tem Sheridan, I understand that, but a 12,000 square foot lot would conform to this neighborhood.
That's, I'm just saying the way I'm thinking. Thank you.
Can we hear from the builder?
I think what y'all were, you're right on the R12 and the R15. When you have a 90-foot front, you only have enough room to do those 6 lots. So whether it's R12 or R15, that's what you're getting with the minimum is 6 lots. We've looked at it in 2 or 3 different ways, and that's, you could go 5 lots, you could go 4 lots, but you can't really go more than 6 lots on this, the way that it's laid out.
So may I ask a question? Is the developer completely opposed to burying the lines?
You know, Mayor, the answer to that is no. I am not opposed to doing it. Mr. Butler approached me a year and a half or so ago when I purchased the land and shared his concerns. And I said, let's investigate and see what the costs are. He came back to me and said, hey, I can get Abby Moore to help cover these costs. That intrigued me even more. But again, we're talking about one individual, not representing the whole subdivision of Abby Moore. I said, hey, you go rally, let's see what you can raise, and let's see what we can do to get the power lines in the ground. It came back. Nobody wanted to put their money up to help pay for it. But I did offer. I just can't absorb that kind of dollar amount. And that's just an estimate. And when we talked about the power lines in front, it's like Churchill Downs. You have to clear between 2 poles to allow an entrance. So that's why those power lines are going in the ground. The cost of all the way down the east side of the property, estimate from Encore is a minimum of $100,000. Thank you. Any questions? But just to add to that, changing it to an R12, you're not going to get any more lots. It's physically impossible to add any more lots on the property. It's 6 lots designed. It was my understanding, 100% my fault, when we originally met with Trophy Club, I took it was an average of 15,000 square foot. So I got the engineers jumping on it to get everything submitted. I didn't want to have any conflict. I knew the previous history. I'm like, I want to go into this with 0 issues. I want to give them exactly what they want. Plus, it's what I want, building a home in there. So we can't add any more homes. It is the exact dimensions as an R12 as an R15. Thank you.
Other comments? Anybody? Carl? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Jason.
Hi, sorry, back again. I just want to make sure I'm making this publicly clear. So I sit on the board of Abby Moore, and I made no comment whatsoever regarding the finances of anybody else in the community. What I did say is I would ask my neighbors that were directly impacted by the power lines if they would potentially work with the developer to potentially offset the cost. What we had before with the last developer that was here with Scorberg, they came to us proactively. They told us what they would do without us having to make any demands or reaching out. I reached out in good faith a year and a half ago when he purchased the real estate because I wanted us to have an open line of communication. That hasn't really happened. We've had some communication here and there, but I have never once had a conversation with him where he said, I am willing to pay X if the rest of you are willing to pay Y. So that's the rub here. The rub is we need transparency. We would like transparency being all as neighbors to know what we need to do. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody else here in their finances. They're just, what's in their checking account, that's up to them. But what I said I would do is I would go ask my neighbors to see if there would potentially be some cooperation. Some have said no. I've gotten nothing from Nathan with any kind of numbers whatsoever.
Other comments? Jeff, anybody? Yes, sir.
Just furthermore, I mean, I don't think it's really appropriate to come to Abbey Moore residents and ask them to pay anywhere from $85,000 to $100,000. That is just not the way to go about this, and not the way I've seen developers go about something like this. It's highly inappropriate to rely on residents to fork out money for something like this. This is part of why developers have a contingency budget to address site work issues like this. My concern is if this does get approved, then, I mean, we've seen how the lot's been maintained over the last year. These lines are never going to get buried. They're not going to do it. We've had countless conversations and we've made no movement. And so if this gets approved, my concern is that he's not going to bury them. He's made that clear, outside of the ones on the front. And so I think it was a great recommendation by Mayor Pro Tem Sheridan made about the P&D, like going about it that way. But this is why I know we're trying to distinguish between the two. But if my concern, unless you're able to disprove this, is if this goes through, then that's it. We have no leverage. There's no lever to pull to make this a, yes, okay. So, yeah, that's my concern. Thank you.
I have a question, Mayor. I don't know if this is for Matt or the developer, but you're building 1.2, 1 point whatever million dollar houses. What is the backyard of those houses? Are they going to back up to those power lines? They're in their backyard. So I'm going to spend 1.2 million to look at that? Is that?
I mean, Nate can speak to this, but I know the lot that Nate wants to build on, and his lot has a hole in it, in the lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Other comments? Okay, so what we want to do, let's review the motion, please. Terry, would you read that again, please?
The motion?
Well, I mean, the consideration.
Okay. Consider and possibly act on a recommendation to the Trophy Club Town Council on a rezoning request made by Vasquez Engineering LLC to change the zoning from R15 Single Family Residential District to R12 Single Family Residential District on approximately 2.991 acres of land out of the Mary Medlin Survey, Abstract 832, Denton County, Texas.
Is there a motion to?
Mayor, I'd
Yes,
like to make a motion, we deny the request.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Is there discussion? Okay, all those in favor to deny, please raise your hand. All those opposed? It was,
4 to
yeah,
3.
the motion passes.
Motion to deny.
Yeah, motion to deny passes. Thank you. Number 13.
Okay, number 13, consider and take appropriate action to appoint a town secretary effective August 29, 2023.
Honorable Mayor, members of council, good evening. I'm here to answer any questions if you have it regarding the town secretary appointment.
Any questions regarding, well, will you introduce her, or can you do that?
Yes. Tammy Dixon. Good evening, Mayor and Town Council.
Good evening, Tammy. Would you tell us just a little bit about where you have been, just about a 30 seconds, so everyone will know you? This is our new town secretary.
Once you appoint me.
Appointed, yeah.
I am most recently from the town of Bartonville, where I served as town secretary and assistant town administrator for almost 12 years. Prior to that, I had a year in Frisco and a little over 9 years in the town of Flower Mound, where I reside.
Okay, so is there a motion to approve this action to appoint a town manager? Steve?
I'll make a motion. I move to consider and to approve Town Secretary effective August 29th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Jeff? All those in favor? All those opposed? Unanimously? Tammy, welcome to Trophy Club. Yay, we're so happy to have you. Now, I have to tell you, when she interviewed, she had really done her homework because she'd been watching our town hall meetings. And she kind
And
of
she's
shared
still
with
here.
us what she saw, what she liked, what she... So we're so happy to have you. Thank you, Tammy.
And yet she came.
And yet she came. We're just delighted you're here. Thank you. Okay, next
Item
one.
number 14, consider and take appropriate action on review of Community Pool Phase 2. And I do have speakers.
Okay, please.
Okay, Wendy Bailey, 201 Durango Trophy Club.
Hi, guys. So my name's Wendy Bailey of 201 Durango. I wanted to appeal to you guys tonight to reconsider moving forward with the addition of a $700,000 slide at our pool. And here's why. First of all, I was a mommy at that pool when Hawaiian Falls opened. The first season Hawaiian Falls opened, our pool was a ghost town. And then someone had the bright idea to close it to resident only, and it was significantly more a ghost town. And I thought, as an uneducated, I did not go to college, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and even I can see this is a bad idea for making money. It's not my call, I wasn't on council, I wasn't on boards. It was just an observation. Moving forward, now we want to put $700,000 into a slide to a place that's open 3 months a year, and it's already a ghost town, because if you haven't noticed, most of the people in this town probably have a pool. We have Hawaiian Falls, and if you drive past there, there's nobody there. So we're gonna pour money, good money after bad. It's open 3 months of the year, and what, we're gonna get 20 more kids at $5 a pop? That's not really gonna go anywhere. It's gonna look cool, it's gonna be something cool we can say, or that we can look at, but it's not gonna bring us any revenue. We're already losing money at that pool. I've been screaming for the year that I've been on the Parks Board that we need to open it up to more than just Trophy Club. I mean, bare minimum, open it up to the kids that go to the schools, like Byron District, Northwest ISD even, so that their friends can come and play with them at the pool. That's fallen on deaf ears. Whatever, we'll revisit that. But we could utilize that money to do other things that could benefit far more people. If we put a heater in the pool and have the pool open year-round, we could have a lot more time for practice for our swim team, who's doing fabulous. We could open it up to our seniors who are always looking for something to do. They want programs for them. We could have senior citizens swim time, senior citizens aerobics. We can have swimming lessons for kids when it's not busy because the other kids are in school. They can have swimming lessons year-round because people have pools in their backyard and this might be a need for them. And did you know, because I just found out, our pool director has this very special certification for special needs children that we are not using. We're doing nothing with it. It's probably a pretty hard certification to get, and it's one that almost no one in the Metroplex has. We could open up special programs for special needs kids and have them come from all over the Metroplex to utilize this opportunity that we have that we're doing nothing with. I think that's crazy. I think that if we take that money and refocus it into different areas, I know for a fact that putting a heater in that pool is less than $10,000. That shouldn't even be a conversation. It should be happening. I don't think that's even a decision that has to go through my board, let alone yours. But the things that we could do in lieu of putting in this cute, fun, lighted up slide, we could do a lot for a lot of people instead of a lot for a little bit of people. So that's why I want you to reconsider putting that slide in. We talked about doing a party room. I think that we'd be doing ourselves a better service if we did more than just a party room. I think that we should take some of that money and do more of a space, a flex space for people. One of the things that I've been hollering about since my kids were little was we don't have an indoor place for you to rent a facility for a birthday party. My kids' birthdays are in the summer. It's hot. We want to be inside. So you either have a swimming party or you sweat to death because you're not having all those kids inside your house, right? There's a whole bunch of things that our subcommittee, me and Patrick Shine, have been, kicking around thinking about. And I think that we could utilize that money in a far better way with all these bright ideas that we have. Our board, I don't know how long Patrick's been on there. I've only been on there a year. We're fired up. We have a lot of ideas. I'm looking for somebody to give me a yes, let's move forward. That's where you guys come in. So help me out on that. Thank you.
Other comments?
Our
Other
next
speakers?
Yes,
Okay,
Lisa Finch, 2721 Waverly Drive.
I'm Lisa Finch, as she said, 2721 Waverly Drive, longtime resident, first-time speaker at this event, so thank you so much. I'm going to start by saying thank you to the council, thank you to the mayor for your servant leadership for the town. I can't say it enough. I appreciate everything you do and the time you spend for our community. I feel like I'm striking while the iron's hot. That was exceptional. It was more information than I knew. I was coming here mainly to support the Tritons, as you can see, and if you're looking from the back, you can see the list of names of our state participants. And we are asking for your consideration to heat the pool and, like our previous speaker just said, to provide more options for the year-round activities that we could run out of our pool. I mean, the opportunities are endless, and I think that we have a proposal that is just packed with impact for the community, right? So if we heat the pool, as she mentioned, we can have water aerobics. My mom, she's in her 70s, lives and dies by water aerobics and has created such a strong community with the women that she does that with in the morning. I could see that being so impactful for our community here. Understanding the fact that we have an opportunity to service our special needs kids. I coached special needs Special Olympics when I was in my younger years, and it was one of the most just life-changing opportunities for me to do that, and I would love for us to bring that into our community as well and give an opportunity for our younger kids to help with that program. So that was something I didn't know about. I would love to see that. And additionally, in speaking behalf of the Tritons, I have been a Triton swimmer myself, and my 2 young children are also on the swim team. It is I can't describe the opportunity that it has made for so many of our kids. It's a different sport than our traditional sports in Texas, possibly, and it's a confidence builder. It is a community builder. It is something that my kids look forward to every single summer, and I would love to see that expanded beyond just the 4 months of the summer that we're able to participate. We have put a proposal together, and I am sorry, Mr. Rogia or Dean, we did not submit it a week in advance, but we do have a proposal where we've collected some input from the community. It is a tip of the iceberg input, but our team, and you can see many of the people from the swim team that are here to support and some that are listening online, we are striking while the iron's hot, and we will be happy to support any kind of information gathering from the community, but there's been really favorable responses in extending the time of the pool that would be open to the use. So I don't know that you want me to go through page by page on the proposal, but there is some great information in there about, how we can extend the usage of the pool, the financial impact. You guys can make money off of this. This is not going to cost us $4,000, $700,000. This could be a revenue generator if we do it right. And then we have parents that are very willing to pay for these services, for swim team, for swim lessons, for other use of the program. We want to build the trust with the community that this is something that we can do to support our kids from 0 to our adults to 100, right? This is definitely a feeder program that we could take into our high school for our high school swim teams. And there's just a lot of great opportunity when you extend the life of the pool. Again, growing up as a swimmer, it changed my life, and I can see that this would have a very beneficial or very impactful benefit for our community, our children, and basically anybody in our community who wants to use the pool. So if you would like me to walk you through the PowerPoint, I will. Otherwise, I'm going to yield the floor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Others? Anyone else? Yes, Dean, please. Hey.
Dean Murray, 2000 Churchill Downs Drive. So I also chair the park board, and we discussed the pool issue at our last park board meeting. We've been working on pool project for several years now. And I believe it's passed through council, it's already been approved, it's been budgeted for. I don't necessarily disagree that the pool should be heated, but I don't think that's really the issue with what we're talking about tonight. I think that's a great idea, but that's probably for another night. But as far as the slides go, when Hawaiian Falls opened, there was a decrease, but it had a lot to do with a lot of things. I currently sponsor several water parks. I work with Six Flags at both their water parks, one in Houston, one here in Dallas, and several of Hawaiian Falls. And attendance is down everywhere because of the heat, which really has nothing to do with anything. But the slides bring a certain benefit to our pool that would bring people back. And kids of all ages like going on the slides. I don't think the slides is a bad idea at all to do. It's been budgeted for, it's already been built in to be done. I think working with the town manager, they're gonna look at going back through all the bids and make sure that we do it correctly, from my understanding. Just make sure that the engineering, we're gonna pay the fair price, the right price to get the pool project done. But I can't help but think it's gonna benefit the pool. And what you'll hear a lot of people say that there's a lot of pools in backyards, but there's not a lot of slides in backyards. And I think it's a huge amenity. When you drive around the Metroplex and you look at some of the other towns like Capel and Colleyville and the Colony, their pool areas have slides. NRH, they have slides. And why wouldn't our upscale town have slides at our pool as well? So I think it'd be nothing but a benefit for our town. And the park board agreed with that.
Dean, don't go, I have a question, don't go anywhere. So would you expand on that a little bit when you say the park board agreed on that? Going back from memory, this has been in front of the council for a year or more, right? A long time. And we approved the project in phases. Now I understand we're going back and sharpening the pencil, which is great. But from a board standpoint, the Parks Board, this design has been out there for a while, has it not?
Yeah, I was involved originally with the design a few years ago when we first conceived that, met with some of the engineers and Tony, we talked about it. And what we approved is to agree to move forward. Phase 1 of the pool has been completed or nearly complete. And now we were discussing about phase 2. And I think while the agreement was with Park Board was to move it forward as designed, as given by engineering, with the one caveat that the town was just gonna research to make sure we're paying the right price for everything that we're gonna get done. Do all the numbers hold up? And I think that was really the only issue that has to be done.
So just so I'm clear, I'm sorry, Dennis.
Go ahead, no, go.
Just so I'm clear, is it the park board's position to proceed as has been planned?
It is.
Yes. You voted on it.
It was voted on and approved from the Park Board.
Yes.
I have two questions. What's the status of phase 2 as far as doing it? And also, is phase 2 only the slide?
No. There are several, you want to answer that?
So phase 2 is more detailed than just a slide? Okay, got it. Mayor, I'm also getting a little bit conflicting in that the slide versus the Tritons and versus, whatever. And heaven forbid, I had a conversation with the pool guy this morning about year-round, being open year-round. Okay. So as far as an agenda item, are we on only the slide or we're on just pool phase 2?
So pool phase
okay.
2
is the
encompasses,
agenda item.
it encompasses several new improvements to the water,
Right.
the facility.
So, yes, okay, so what I was getting to is the other item about year-round and everything else is not on the agenda, if I'm not mistaken, and therefore should be referred to for a specific agenda item to the Parks Board and come back to us.
We never discussed that. I think that came up
No, I
later. It's
understand.
a great idea, and I think we should bring it up to the Park
And
Board.
I'm for
We should
open, keeping
reintroduce
it open and utilizing it as much as we can, okay?
Yeah.
But I just wanted to bring up that I don't think it's part of the agenda.
I would agree. And actually, can the swimming program exist with a slide?
Yeah, they're two separate issues.
They're two separate issues. Again, we're in a situation where we're trying to pull things into one vote, and we're really voting on this community pool, correct? Not the swimming aspect of it,
It's just phase 2.
correct?
Mayor, before y'all
Because it's a great idea.
vote, I do have some legal advice to
Thank
provide
you.
concerning phase 2 and
Okay.
also the status of contracts.
Oh, yes,
So I can do that in closed session
okay,
under legal advice.
I have a comment.
yes.
Is there a comprehensive pool plan for phase 2?
There is.
Is it been completed?
It is. There is a plan, although I think it's been amended a little bit. Originally, we were gonna delete the kiddie pool. And I think engineering came back and said that we could actually relocate the slide and not delete the kiddie pool. I think the thought was that we should keep that intact, and why demise that? That's still a benefit to the pool area to have that small pool. And we were able to figure out a way to move the slide to another area and not give that up.
But
And
if you move the slide in that one area that was presented, does that then take away?
Spectators for swimming or people that are out on the side by the pool? Like, have we looked at all of?
Do we have no, we don't have one. To my knowledge, it doesn't take away, when you look at where it's gonna go in the facility, it doesn't distract from the pool and any viewing of the pool. And it also has that community area that we're gonna put the building in where there's a covered area that's part of the plan is to put in a covered area for parties and stuff that's been asked for. And there's actually room to put in several more of those or put in a larger facility later.
So that hasn't been decided finally?
Like, there's not a completion on that,
Of
any of that room, it's just
Oh.
been.
A point of order, Carl, please.
Yeah, I think mine's kind of a point of order too, because we have not been presented.
That's correct.
Phase 2. So I got nothing to discuss, nothing to vote on, right? So I think this needs to kick back, and if we're gonna talk phase 2, then we need a presentation on what phase 2 is.
Right.
Is there any reason why we can't do special needs swimming programs now?
No.
Okay, I would direct staff, let's do that, right? And start talking about the heated pool. That does not sound like it's something that, that's kind of a no-brainer. But I think we're wasting time. We're not getting anywhere with this.
I agree.
I agree.
So, and just to be clear, the motion that was approved by Park Board was to move forward with the project. It wasn't saying this is an end-all complete project.
Right.
And I was just saying that the Park Board was behind moving forward with the plan that we have in front of us.
And I think we got new council members here, they don't know what the plan is. So you're asking us to approve moving forward with the plan, and we don't have a plan.
No,
Actually, this was raised by Councilmember Bauer. I don't think that and these are great ideas, and I love the Titans' ideas, but this needs to run through the Parks Board so that you can make recommendations to us and supply us with the backup. I think that we've jumped the gun on what we're doing today.
Yeah, I mean, all these ideas are great ideas, and they don't affect the current proposal. So you were briefed on phase 1 and phase 2 when it was presented and approved as a total package. Phase 1's been 99% completed. It was pool repair, maintenance, and all of that stuff. Phase 2 is the slide and the house, the building, and some other things to the splash pad. That hasn't been brought to you to fund yet. So it's still under negotiation. We're dealing with some issues in funding, pricing, things like that with the current vendor. So yes, it hasn't been brought to you for a final we haven't obligated the funding yet, because we haven't asked you to obligate the funding yet, because we're negotiating that. But so phase 2 is in the process of moving forward. We're negotiating those issues and dealing with that right now. And all this stuff we're talking about here on top of the pool issue is great stuff that can continue to move parallel if we choose to that, because it doesn't affect what we're doing. And then to answer the question on the slide, yes, was moved from the street side of the pool to the inside of the pool where the building was gonna go. So no matter what, that space was being used. And so we moved the building to the other side by the splash pad to free up that area. So no matter what happens, that area is being used to put something there. So the original plan was to put the building there. the slide was going closer to the street as the company talked about the last meeting. So does that help?
Yeah, I'm with Carl. There's nothing really to talk about or vote on. I mean, this hasn't been vetted to the extent that it needs to be, and so.
So, why is it on here? Look at, so number 14, do we need to take, consider and take appropriate action?
Mayor, I'll make a motion, we take no action.
Second it.
All those in favor? No action?
So-
Those opposed?
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
I did.
Luann, thanks. Thank you very much.
Jeff, do you have?
Jeff was talking.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff. Oh, you
Well,
didn't-
I actually
you wa-
wanted to
would you
speak
like to
before
say
we
something?
voted,
Oh,
but
take your vote back.
basically, just to summarize,
Okay.
nothing's going to happen with Phase 2 until this work that you're talking about is done. And
Right.
No.
it will be presented to us at the time to review and fund.
Correct. Yes, when we finalize what Phase 2 will actually look like, we will come back to you with the request to move forward with it and to fund it. So that's when we'll get to be able to have another deep, in-depth discussion where we're actually asking you to move forward and then fund what we want to do forward.
Okay?
So-
And going forward, okay, the swim team suggestions and all that are going to go to the Parks Board, and they're going to encompass that, and then bring forward ideas to enhance this project in its entirety.
And if some of that stuff you saw was already in the CIP list, which we're going to tweak before our September 11th council meeting with your suggestions. So some of that stuff is on there.
CIP.
All right? And we
Would you
also-
like to tell us what that acronym means, please?
Yes. Community Improvement Plan. It's for the town.
Capital Improvement
Yes.
Plan for those
So-
who don't.
Yeah, so, and we did include some of that stuff, so we are working on some of that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You want to take a vote again, Jeff? Are you good?
At this point, as long as we're going to have this addressed, then there's no reason to address it further.
Okay. Do you need another vote, Terry?
No, I
Okay.
understand it was unanimous to take no action.
Okay, good, thank you. Is that good, everybody? Okay, look at number, we're going to go to number 17. If you'll look at that first before we take on, address number 15. So please go to 17.
Okay. Consider and take appropriate action regarding improvements to the Bobcat Boulevard and the high school exit entrance crosswalk to add pavement striping, marking, and a second set of flashing lights, and any other improvements required.
This is yours.
Okay, it's been brought to our attention that that intersection is gotten a little bit unsafe, and I don't think that Chief will disagree with that. And we have a slide, if we can get it put up there, that has a cartoon drawing that I put on there. This is regarding the intersection of Bobcat Boulevard and the entrance and exit to the high school off of Bobcat Boulevard by the Montessori School. Jill's going to try to pull up that intersection. As it stands right now, at that point on Bobcat Boulevard, I think it's running more east and west, and that the road coming in from the high school would run north and south. The sidewalk that goes back to the school complex, you can see it in the upper right-hand corner there, it runs on what would be the west side of the road. There is no sidewalk on the other side. However, in our infinite wisdom, we placed the crosswalk on the east side of that intersection. And what happens is, when the kids are coming down that sidewalk, they want to cross over, they want to go to our businesses over there, or enter into the neighborhood. So now they either have to cross the traffic coming out, and then cross the traffic on Bobcat, or they just take the shortcut and play freeway flogger and try to come across there. So what I'm proposing is adding an extra crosswalk on the opposite side and another set of the flashing lights. And since I don't know of any plans of the school district to continue that sidewalk down while we're there working, we could probably take that out where the red crosshatching is.
Jeff, I have a question. I'm trying to visualize the distance between the two proposed crosswalks. 100 feet, maybe? 75 feet? How far is that?
That road would be 30, that's a two-lane road, that'd be like 25 foot wide, maybe.
Point of
30.
order?
Thank
Point of
you.
order.
Thank you.
This seems to be a prime example. We're trying to do the work of the staff.
Exactly.
So if this is an issue, I think we kick it over to the town manager and say, can you have staff look at this and tell us if this is feasible? Do we even own the corner? How much will it cost? And then we can make a decision.
Exactly. Other comment? Those were going to be my
Not saying it's a bad idea.
I don't either, but we want to know the cost. We want to know what the evidence is, that's that much traffic. We don't know.
Do we need a motion to direct staff? Yes. All right.
Okay. Let's have a motion. Someone would like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Make it.
I'll make the motion to improve this intersection and with the addition of a crosswalk and direct staff to come back to us with costs for further consideration.
Are there two motions in
Is there
there?
a second?
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
My discussion on that would be, again, you're telling them to make a crosswalk. We need to direct staff to tell us if it's feasible and what the cost might be.
Yeah, the verbiage of improvement, we don't know.
That's
We don't-
right.
We don't know
Well,
that.
I can either amend my motion or I can withdraw it. I'll withdraw it and I'll make a new motion.
Okay?
Okay? I would like to make a motion to request staff to investigate the potential to put in a crosswalk in this location.
That's a second?
I'll second it.
Good. Discussion? Are we good?
I think we've discussed it to death.
No, what, are you clear?
No,
Okay.
no, we can
Okay, all
discuss
those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes, and so we now have something for the staff to help us make a decision. Thank you. Okay, let's go back, if we could, to number 16. We're going to take number 15 last, because again, I'm recused, and so I will be leaving, and my right-hand man will be doing it. So if you will look at future agenda items, please, number 16, Mr. Chief Arado.
Mayor, council, as you can see on this list, we've upgraded the list at the request of some of our council members.
I really like it.
And added the date this was requested, who it was requested by, and the last action date. So
Very good.
I want to thank Tamara for doing that research and getting that information on there. As you can see, our strategic plan's been on there for a while. So it's something we keep on there. Obviously, the second issue we're dealing with tonight, the flashers, crosswalk stuff is another issue. We'll talk about that in the future here. These other issues are on the agenda to keep moving forward. I think more once we get a full-time town manager. The short-term rentals, Dean is still working on that. The community pool will bring back with some additions, so we'll update that one tonight. TrophyClub Park, legal descriptions, comprehensive plan, which was just added, and the roundabout. So is there anything else we want to add, Mr. Sheraton?
Go right.
I'm going to need a second on this. I'd like to add a future workshop meeting to discuss and learn about the traffic control for the intersection by the high school, whether it be a roundabout, and consider the updated traffic studies that have been updated, lights, stop signs, et cetera. In other words, we need to cover the whole thing,
I'll second that.
and I request a workshop.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So do you want to have us update the traffic study?
No,
or just
no,
bring
well,
it-
the
Bring it
update,
to the meeting?
it was
Okay.
updated, what, a year ago?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so,
Would've
but
been-
we need to discuss it because there's council people that don't know about it and in relationship to the dollars being bandied about, that's where I'm at.
Okay, excellent.
Anything else? Jeff?
We had a report from the chief that had said that the traffic has been alleviated. I
Let's
believe,
get it, yeah.
Crossing guards,
the-
not alleviated,
Right.
but.
It's getting a little better.
Improved.
We're hoping another week or so, we'll have an understanding of what that really looks like.
But
Yeah.
do you have any idea if it's been improved enough that we might want to change our minds about the roundabouts?
Yeah, give me a few more days on that one. Like I said, it's only been 8, 9 days
Yeah,
since
well,
you
I
started
guess
this new school day, so.
Where I'm driving with this is perhaps we should put a time to this later, like in November or something like that, for the workshop, so that you have time to accumulate
Okay.
some current information.
Yep, sounds good.
Anybody agree with that, or?
I'm in agreement.
Good, thank you.
We need information to make a decision, so there you go.
Yep. So I think it's a great
So-
idea.
That'll help.
So Dennis needs a
No.
second for that. Did you have one?
Oh, no, we had a second to put it on.
Yeah.
And
All right.
I didn't
Yeah.
specify
So do we need-
timing.
We need to vote.
No, we don't need to vote.
That's
I
a
just needed
that's a,
two people to get it on the agenda.
It's a direction.
it's a direction.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
I do have a question for Chief. I'm sure I'm missing it, but in our agenda that came out, there was an item about the ILA.
Yes.
And it's, is it on here anymore or not on here anymore?
in the
It
consent.
It was on
Agenda.
consent.
Consent agenda.
Consent agenda.
Because it was
Number
broken
10.
out before.
Yeah,
number
but
10.
because we didn't know what the, when you got the draft agenda, we were still waiting on word from what the MUD was going to do.
Okay.
The
fair
MUD approved it, we moved it to consent.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, the mayor is going to recuse herself because we're into item number 15, discuss and consider requests of Hogan's Glen HOA. I'm going to take a 15-minute break, if you don't mind. I'm sorry to keep the Hogan's Glen people, but we've been up here for a couple hours now, and,
About a 10-minute break.
all right, make it 10 minutes.
So do we?
Please?
Need to delay this.
Took out all the good candy.
Wait, are there any more M&Ms?
I think Dennis wants to go home.
No.
No.
Huh?
Dennis.
Okay. All right, I've called back into session, it's 8:03. I've already commented that agenda item number 15 is discuss and consider the request. I would like to handle this as a matter of council discussion, then public to speak, but I do have somebody asking to speak, so I'll let them speak first. This is a communication issue. We had very significant, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to speak first. We had very specific and significant, long time covering everything on the drainage issue of the Hogan's Glen. And we came to a motion that was passed by council. And things got array as far as communicating what's going on, what's not going on, how it's happening. And that's what I'm trying to get clear tonight, so that we are all on the same wavelength and we all understand what happened and what can happen and where we can go with this. But I have Mike Hodge, but that's if we have questions for you. Right, Mike? Okay. I have Mary Lee Hodge for not speaking, but for the HOA. I have Steve Bowman. Steve, would you like to talk? Same as Mike. Okay, you're available. I mean, I will, you'll have plenty of time to talk. Mike is restricted to 4 minutes. You're restricted to 5. All right, here's where I'm thinking. I'm going to open this up for council discussion in a second. On June 13th, we had a council meeting. We made a motion to, for $150,000 from the stormwater fund with a release. Our previous council did up a release, sent it to the HOA. HOA made comments to it. They tweaked it. They made recommended changes. The legal counsel left the town, and then somehow or other, the town considered the fact that the HOA made changes to their rejecting it. Now, this is the way I'm talking. Excuse me, this is how I understand it. Then on July 17th, the HOA board met. They approved the original release. And on the 18th, some conversation was in both email and on phone about it. And then basically it was, well, the town interim town manager had to go back to council for direction. On July 25th, the council, after hearing about it, said, don't take it, gave direction not to do anything, not to take any more action. Well, there was a lot of I'm using the word miscommunication, but maybe there wasn't the proper communication so everybody understood. So my thought was to let all the council talk, and then I'd like to ask Dean some questions, okay? And if council understands where I'm coming from, I'm trying to establish good communications or at least get this out in the open on what's going on, what happened, okay? We'll start with Luann first.
Well, I've heard your narrative, Mayor Pro Tem, and I appreciate it. My understanding, of course, we've all had the same information. My understanding was that that motion called for a full release. I believe that was the verbiage. And when a release was sent, it came back and it was limited. So I think that that started the friction. This was not a motion that was to be negotiated. It was a full release. And I think that's where the friction started. I'm not saying that we're not committed to going forward. It just needs to be documented properly. I mean, once the council makes a commitment, we want to stick with it. But I think that the problem has been, we're through negotiating. We've come to an agreement. We passed the motion. Let's get it done and let's document it properly. That's my position as a council member.
Okay, if I may. I've spent time reviewing the meeting, and talking to some people, and it was never said, this is a take it or leave it release, or you can't make any recommendations, or at least come back and talk to us. In other words, once again, communications. Yes, you're correct, it was with a release, but not a, oh, you can't change a dotted I or anything like that. So, all right. Jeff?
Well, I made the motion, and if I recall correctly, I called for a full and complete release now and in perpetuity for this.
Yeah.
And any changes to it could potentially change that, so.
Potentially, yes. Yeah. But the other thing, and I'm not trying to take the HOA's side, but the HOA board, as presented to the board, approved it as Dodd wrote it. And that's where a lot of the confusion came in.
That is a lot of the confusion.
So, okay.
I believe in my motion, I also directed that it was to come from the assessment fund. And that I believe we have since found that that can't happen.
I'd like to put off what we can or can't do, if you don't mind, for, after we go around. Okay. Carl?
I still support we need to do something.
Okay, all right. Steve?
I 100% support we need to do something. I guess I would just comment to Luann's point that when it came back to us, it was redlined or whatever, it changed, and the action of the council was to not do anything. And I heard what you said, Dennis, about it wasn't accurately communicated back to the HOA. I agree with that. But then everybody on the council voted 7-0 to not do anything. Regardless of what happened, I don't really care what happened, 2 weeks ago to a month ago. We came to an agreement. We made a commitment from the town, $150,000. My suggestion, as I hear Luann and others, let's find a way to get to yes. Where do we hear that before?
Thank you.
I'm just going to say, we're going to stand by the commitment that I made the first time.
Okay. I'm going to go to Dean for a second. Dean, whether I'm right or wrong in my assumptions here as I presented it, I heard some people on the council say they want to move forward. Is there a way to move forward with staying with the original motion, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, of $150,000 from whichever fund that was coming from, and some form or fashion of a release?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I think you did fine, and I think everyone did fine in explaining it. The motion had some specific language. First, it would come from stormwater drainage funds. It would be for the express purpose of mitigating stormwater siltation damage. Okay? Also, it would be in exchange for a full release. So those elements were not contained in the document. Okay? Now, there are several iterations of the waiver that I found, a couple different drafts. The last draft would not have been in perpetuity, would have stopped upon the execution of the document, which means the HOA could come back and see you tomorrow. So there were some limitations there, maybe miscommunication. But to answer the question about the drainage utility funds, so these are funds that are created pursuant to Texas law. There's statutory provisions, Texas Local Government Code, Chapter 552. These are municipal drainage utility funds. They are a special assessment. So even though the statute uses the word levy, it's not a tax. It's a special assessment. Has to benefit the thing being improved, and that's how you make the assessment. So you can only use the funds in a particular manner. Now, there is a legal way to do that here, and I understand that the culvert is part of the street system. That's right? Okay, so the culvert was installed when the road was installed. Okay, now I've looked, and I can see that the stormwater drainage utility flows down that road, it appears. But then my question would be, is there a drainage easement beyond the culvert for the municipality, for the town? Or does it all private drainage from that point out? Do we know? Do we know?
Do we know? Matt?
Do we know?
Chief?
So, and that can tell me how legally we can pursue.
Well, my understanding is the plat made a notation of a drainage easement, but the plat did not dedicate to the town a drainage easement.
That's right, that's right.
So the proper documentation is if you want the town to be able to use that special assessment, the town needs an easement
That's right.
for that drainage project.
Yes. And so as I can tell on GIS, it looked like there were some sewer lines that traverse the existing ponds, that you also have the road there, you have the culvert. On the plat, the drainage easement dedicated as drainage easement, but not to the town. The obligation on the plat is for the HOA to maintain what it calls the open space, which is also the drainage easement, okay? So the way that I've ever been able to do this in the past with these funds is to obtain a drainage easement. So you identify a public purpose, okay? Consideration for the $150,000 is the conveyance of the easement interest. In addition to that, you get to improve your drainage utility system, okay? But the town would have the right, but not the obligation, to maintain drainage area in the future. So if you had to ever come in the future and make improvements, you have a drainage easement that allows you to do that. That's how you protect the public purpose. That's how you ensure that there's no gift of public fundings, especially this particular type of fund, which we just cannot give to private persons.
So if I heard from the feedback, a easement could be drawn.
Mhm.
And it gives us the ability to use 150,000, some form or fashion.
Yes.
And we're not perpetually obligated to spend 150,000 or anything else after that.
That's right. So the way I would draft the easement is you would have the right as the town, but not the obligation to maintain the easement.
Okay.
So that would be consistent with the current obligation of the HOA under the plat.
Okay. First of all, I like what I'm hearing, I think. The next question is, how is the 150,000 expended?
Yeah, so we need to, and I've seen the scope of work, understand, probably hasn't been done like a town would do it. But again, because of the consideration that you're giving for the easement acquisition, and I'll just kind of give you an example. We might have more particular like line items for scope of work, and one of the items, and I don't know if this is accurate anymore, one of the items I saw was one lump sum amount of dredging it was like $525,000. So for a municipality, that would probably not be appropriate if someone was to propose bids to the town for the town to accept that kind of work. For a private party, that's probably okay. And so that would be at 6-foot depth from what I saw. And again, I don't know if that's still the current bid price or if that's the current scope of work, but that would be part of it. So you would hold the funds, and then you would audit the work, make sure the public purpose is served, that it's built according to plans and specifications for the town. And so you'd have town folks go out there and inspect it and make sure that it's done properly, and then that's when you can release the funding.
Okay, let me just, I'll go around the table here in a second. So we can negotiate a easement with the HOA.
Yep.
We could expend 150,000 as consideration for that easement.
Yes.
And there would be some restrictions as to, that have to be met by the HOA before that money could be released.
Right.
Is there any conditions on us or any restrictions that we need to put on there that they have to have 5 bids, they have to have, $50 million worth of bond behind it? In other words, if the town was doing a project, it would be very specific as far as bureaucracy goes, and would spend the whole 150,000 on the bureaucracy and not on the project.
You would have performance and payment bonds. You'd probably also have a maintenance bond, even though it's not required by state law. We'd have all kinds of, yes.
There would be some
bureaucracy.
restrictions on there. Okay.
Now, for special assessments under Texas law, just like with the PID, competitive bidding is not required under Chapter 252, Local Government Code.
It was not. So and I don't know what's going on, Pat, but if the HOA was already involved or ready to do something,
Right.
that doesn't stop them or say, hey, stop
No.
everything and go.
We
start.
can apply some exceptions under Texas law, I think, that would get us there, but we need to know more facts.
Got it. Okay, we need more. I'll go around the table here. Stacy, anything?
Not yet.
Steve?
So, yeah, so this whole option of this easement, is that solely predicated on where the funds come from the town, what bucket of money it comes from?
That's part of it.
Okay.
So it's also in addition to the constitutional prohibition on giving an unconstitutional gift to a private party.
That leads to my second question. If we found another bucket, are we still going to, is the easement kind of something we've got to get through
Easement,
regardless of where the money comes from? Because these folks, they don't care.
easement
know,
gives you the
it's a-
public purpose
Okay.
in perpetuity. It gives you the public right. So now you're on public property, kind of. Within your easement right.
Carl, next.
Is the 150 buying the easement?
It would be part of the consideration. So I would tie all of those factors into the easement consideration. But also, I mean, considering the fact there's a culvert there, you have the gabions, however you want to say it. Engineers, I think, like to say gabion. And then I think that I've also heard that there's some other improvements beyond the culvert on the private side.
And what I'm asking is, how much of the money just gets us the easement, and then they can, because we're buying it from them, they use that money for whatever they're doing?
Yeah, so that's why I say we need to tie it to the scope of work. Right, so for right now, like the way the waiver's drafted, there's no scope of work. I mean, they could, and I've said this before, I mean, they could take that money and buy ice cream for everyone in the HOA. So this is how we ensure the public purpose, protect the public purpose, keep consistent with Texas law, expend the funds the way that they're designed to be expended under state law and consistent with our ordinances. And we also get a permanent public easement with the right but not the obligation to maintain the drainage area. And they can dictate how big or small they want that drainage easement area to be, but we just need to be able to connect the 150,000 to the scope of work and the easement right, so we can justify it.
Jeff?
So I have a couple questions. If we had to do road work right now
Mhm.
in that area, we do not have an easement currently that would allow us to do that.
You would need to ask for a temporary construction easement to go beyond the existing street right-of-way easement area so that you could do the work. So that's another good point. That's why this also serves public purpose for future work on the road. Is that what you're trying to say?
That's where I was going with this. Okay, and then who would actually define the area, the HOA, for this easement that we're talking about having? So. would
Yeah, I think we just, yeah.
that area encompass that pond in its, at that point, in its entirety?
I think that's something we can discuss with them. I would say as long as the consideration matches the funding expenditure. So probably a 2-foot easement would not be sufficient, but 20 feet might get you there if you can tie the scope of work to the cost to acquire the easement and also, future consideration of doing work on the road. Drainage area, culvert, whatever else you have to do.
Okay, that's all I have right this moment.
Okay. Luann?
Well, I appreciate your explaining how to structure this so that it can protect the town, can give us perpetuity as far as release of liability, and it can correct the vagueness of the plat that did not dedicate the easements or the drainage easements to the town, but just said they're there.
Right.
And we could, have the definition of those easements be as shown on that plat and tied it into that plat.
You sure could. I mean, if they want to give you a drainage easement over all the ponds, that would be sufficient. I
However
don't,
they want to do it.
like I said, as long as I think we can justify the expenditure of the 150,000.
I'm behind it. We'll see what they think.
So Dean, another question on the easement. How do we avoid having another 22 meetings and discussions about easements? And, I mean,
Yeah.
how do we keep it simple on this KISS method, right? With you leading to the legal side of what we need to do, what we're all talking about, working with the HOA to keep it simple and move on. I mean, is that possible?
I have a form easement I can draft. I'll provide it to them. It will include indemnity provision. It will include a full release. It will fully protect the town as you requested in the previous motion. So I'm going to include all that language, and then it'll also be recorded in the deed records, which the previous waiver originally was not intended to be recorded.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public here in a second. So the process would be for the town, you, to draw this up, submit it to the HOA, and the HOA would use their legal, whatever they
Sure.
wanted to,
Yep.
and get it back. In other words, finalize it, so to say. They do have the right, I don't want to be arbitrarily take it or leave it. I mean, I want to say that, if they have a good comment, we want to listen.
Yeah, I will expect red lines.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
How long would something like that take? A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
If they accept it as written, it could be tomorrow.
All
We
right.
just need to bring it back and.
So the timing is, okay, then after that happens, all right, you write the easement, they look at it, they say yes, everybody agrees, then it has to come back to council
Right.
to approve two things. One, the easements, the paperwork, whatever the documents are.
Yes.
And two, is at that time, are we voting for the money?
Yes, you need to
And
allocate.
that's not just
right.
saying a motion, let's do this. That's authorizing the budget, which, is in the motion.
Right.
Which our original motion didn't do. They
Right.
would have had to have come back to us.
That's right. They would have been
And-
back here anyway.
And
Yes.
then all of a sudden, council changes their mind.
Right.
That's what I don't want. Okay, thank you. Anything else before I open it to the public?
No, any other questions?
All right? Council, we'll be able to continue talking. I like long meetings. Pat, Mike, Steve, how do you want to? Okay. You'll fill out one of the forms after, right? Please identify yourself, name and address.
Pat Curry, 2 Asheville Lane, Hopkins Glen. First of all, I think all of you made the comment basically in a little different way, saying you wanted to follow through on the commitment that you made. So we really do appreciate that. Secondly, Dean, you've thrown a couple of monkey wrenches in. Not trying to start an argument. I was making notes as he was talking, but I will point out your motion, Councilmember Beach, as it was voted on and approved by you all when you approved the minutes, says nothing about in perpetuity. It says up to the date the release is signed. That's in writing in your motion that was approved in the minutes of the next meeting. So, and that was our understanding too. So in perpetuity in and of itself, I don't want to speak for the rest of the board. For me, it would be a non-starter, but you're talking about a different deal when you're talking about an easement, because now you've got the right to actually make some improvements when things happen like what happened yesterday.
Hold on a second, Pat. Okay, well, I'm taking one
Not-
thing.
Right, not, just wanted to bring some points up there, so.
What's the word in perpetuity involved in this?
I got a copy of your minutes right here.
No, I'm not trying to rehash the old motion. I'm trying to make sure that we go ahead properly. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but.
No, that's okay.
I'm signing back in.
Okay.
Pulling up the minutes.
But yeah, and what, so we're gonna make, we have the ability to make another motion tonight.
Right,
So
I understand.
that,
I just wanted to make sure everybody was clear.
Perpetuity is just a deal killer. Now is the time to ask the
I just want to make sure everybody was clear that was not a part of the, and again, I just said that would be for me. I'm one,
No, I
like you,
understand.
I'm one vote out of 5.
Well, I would say this, I intend to draft an easement with an indemnity obligation. It will also include a full release in perpetuity.
Full release in perpetuity.
100%, you have to understand, we have our immunities.
Mhm.
The town absolutely has its immunities.
Okay.
You're
And-
not waiving any immunities, okay?
Mhm.
So I'm not going to draft an easement where the town is required to waive any immunities,
Okay.
okay?
Now,
And
what does that
you're
mean?
performing a governmental function as well.
What does that mean to me? Does that means that they can't sue us for anything, or they can't sue us
They
for?
can try.
Well, anybody can try. But what I mean is impetu, that you're dealing in only in this easement and only in this 150,000 and only in this issue. That's what I'm trying to get to. Right? Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, keep going, Pat.
All right, second issue that, Dean, you may not be aware of, is that Trophy Club Country Club owns 45% of the pond. And so any easement, I'm sure, is going to require their approval as well.
You're talking about the pond right there at the Trophy Club, I mean,
I'm
not
talking about,
Indian Creek.
I'm talking about the ponds that we're talking about.
Okay. No,
Yeah.
Hold on just
And
a
so
second.
and I'll finish. And so part of this whole issue for us, we've been working down about 3 or 4 different trails all at the same time.
Mhm.
Trail with you guys, trail with PD 30, and the trail with the club. And the club is very willing to want to try to work together to get the pond drained. I'm sure part of their part of the pond was damaged as well. They haven't done the research, they haven't got all the facts, but I'm sure that that's true. And they're wanting to try to work together. Now, how they would feel about an easement, I have no idea.
Okay, but where I'm coming from is this easement doesn't have to be for the entire pond. It could be for the first 15 feet. Right. So the question I've got is who owns that first pond at Indian Creek?
First pond, we own, they
That's-
HOA.
That's correct. So.
That's all we need.
So it could be 15 feet and we're not involving any other, just strictly the town and the
Okay,
HOA.
so you're saying your easement would only be for that part of the
I
pond?
don't- I'm just-
But you
we haven't
could.
drawn
you
it
could
up,
do
but
that.
it
Right,
could be.
Right.
That's what I was
Gotcha.
trying to get
Just
to.
want that, but I don't think he knew that, so I just want to make
Good.
sure.
No, keep going.
Another point, it wasn't exactly to the question that you all were talking about, but I think this was, and again, we don't want to get into a long discussion about rehash. I thought it was kind of funny tonight that y'all were awarding the very first thing on the agenda, the recognition that the fire department got and the town got was exactly what was being awarded last year at the very first meeting where this started. So we've been doing this for a year, Dennis, to your point about liking long meetings and long processes. And I know you were being facetious there. We do have, I don't remember, Stacy, I know you did a lot of research. Do you remember, Matt, how many stormwater drains dump into the pond now? Is it like 7 or 9 or something like that?
Yeah,
7,
7.
I thought it was 7. So there's 7 town-owned, town-managed, town-controlled stormwater drains that dump into these, quote, private ponds already. So there is already somewhat of an easement that, whether it was granted or not, and you're probably right, it probably wasn't official, whether it was granted or not, it's there, and it's been there ever since the ponds have been there. So that's just a point for those who don't know that. One of the questions that somebody whispered in my ear that, Dean, this isn't something I need an answer for right now, but something we would need to talk about is, and I've dealt with a lot of easements, so I just don't know what you're talking about, but just making sure that we get what rights we would give up in return for that easement and what the town, what responsibilities the town, if any, the town would take as a result of that easement. So just make a note of that and make sure that we.
You're referring to reservations? What reservations you would keep?
Yeah, yep. And our next, to answer your question, Dennis, about the timing, our next board meeting is the middle of 3rd or 4th week in September. So we've got plenty of time for him to do that. But that would be the earliest that we could address
I
it.
understand. So And not only that, but I'm assuming that this is going to have to go back and forth a couple of times before it gets to
Probably.
your board meeting,
Probably.
okay? And I want to try and get this thing resolved before we have another council through another election.
Right.
So.
We would like the same thing.
Can we theoretically say that we would like to have a decent document for the board to look at and approve by their September board meeting?
That would be great.
What was
All right.
the date again?
Meredith? And another point on that, just full disclosure too, is September 19th. As a part of working with the club, they are wanting to do some work on their part of the pond. We're going to have to drain the pond. We'd like to do that together. The earliest that they really want to do it is next summer anyway. And frankly, to drain the pond, it's getting too late because it's getting ready to be rainy season. And we got 400,000 gallons of water.
What was that term you used?
Rainy season. Well, we actually got 400,000 gallons of water put in our pond last night, for those of y'all who hadn't heard that little story. Thanks to a little water main break through those 7 stormwater drain inlets that I'm talking about that killed every single fish, literally every single fish in the pond was killed. So anyway, so we want, again, for the second time, that's right. So we want to get more information, but my message, and I'll let Mike and Steve and Meredith, anybody else that wants to talk, speak for themselves, but my message is an appreciation. Dennis, I agree with you. I think I would use the term lack of communication and then poor communication on top of that, maybe on both sides. It's why I hate email. Email is the bane of my existence. Okay. But anyway, I want to say thank you personally and on behalf of our board and our community for the comments that all of you all made about wanting to try to do what you said you were going to do and stick up and try to do the right thing. So with that, I'll shut up.
Okay. Mike, please.
Numbers, guys. Mike Hodge, 12 Hayes Court. So let me understand, Dean, that what I understood was you want $150,000 quantified into dredging cost.
Dredging cost, easement, acquisition, consideration.
All
So
right.
we need something
Okay, 'cause
concrete we can look at.
basically, if I do numbers with dredging, I'm talking about 15 feet, 6-foot depth, 700 feet long, something like that.
I just need to see something that we can attach that to the easement as consideration.
Are you going to demand a real estate appraiser for potential value if I say the footage is less or, okay. All right, so once again, I want to thank you guys for all your efforts and appreciate all our efforts from Hogan's Glen, so. But once again, I'm the numbers guy, so
No, I understand.
that's where all the.
That's where you're coming from. Let me ask you
Paul,
a question.
Yes, sir.
Would if they had a contractor who submitted a bid, that would specify what they're doing, would that satisfy you, Dean?
Yeah, we just need to tie it to the area.
No, I understand, but if they had a contract,
Scope of work, something.
scope of work, whatever, from a contractor, that would satisfy. And then the key point is the work's got to be done to be verified to get the money.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
if you remember,
Nope, I
when we
understand.
went through this many times, I gave y'all multiple options because I knew it was going to be difficult for the town to
And
work
again,
into
all
a
I'm trying to do is make sure everybody understands what's
public-private
going on.
venture, which is what all we ever asked for was assistance, because a significant part of Trophy Club sends water into those ponds. There's multiple sources. You also have Cypress Creek coming from the east part of town. So, and once again, I want to push that the town staff do a stormwater management program plan that, you know, that incorporates all the different facets, because like I've always spoke here, we're unique. We're getting 2 creeks into us that don't start in Trophy Club. So that, you know, is a point where the impact comes from whether you deal with the North Texas Council of Governments, state, federal government, or whatever. You need to be seeking assistance funding
which can then assist someone like us, granting you an easement to access or improve or whatever, and we figure out a way to continually keep this, because it's always going to be, until you address things upstream that's been pointed out before, there's always still going to be sediment flowing that way. So there's where, we get into perpetuity. You're not fixing the original causes, so. Anyway,
Okay.
but anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I was going to say, are you Mary Lee? Oh, Kathy, can you hold for a second? Let me just, Steve Bowman, did you want to say anything? Mary Lee Hodge? All right. So please, Kathleen, come up. I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure I covered these first, okay?
Y'all are going to go so sick of seeing and hearing from me, but Kathy Palmer, 40 Cypress Court, and I've been here, I think this is my 4th or 5th time to talk. But I don't understand legalese, I don't understand easements, and I don't understand perpetuity. But what's making me freak out and be really fearful now, if we're signing off in perpetuity, there's signs up that you all are going to start developing that corner. What provision has that been, and how is this easement going to be effective when they start digging up all that dirt and taking those trees? What's going to dump into our, have we learned from the previous construction problem? And so perpetuity to me means forever and ever, amen. That makes me really leery, because I don't know that we've all learned our lessons from the original project of PD 30. So I just want to put that out there, my concern of, if we say, oh yeah, we're not going to do anything, and then we get another 6 feet of silt into our ponds with the next phase that's getting ready to start. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Any other public wish to speak? Please, ma'am, identify yourself. Please, come in. No, come on. Identify yourself. And Terry, do you want everybody to fill out a form?
I would like you to. Sure, no problem.
Kathy, if you would, there's some forms at the back, fill one out, and ma'am, and then, sir, you're next. Okay.
Meredith Hannafin, 9 Stevens Court. I serve on the HOA board, lived in Trophy Club for a long time. And I just wanted to say a quick comment to back Kathy's point. As I drove home from church yesterday at 11:30, if the term of forever and forever, amen, went into the document, I was not going to support that with my vote, but because we just saw evidence yesterday where our community continues to be harmed by the stormwater. So I wouldn't support the $150,000. It's just not enough money for signing off on the forever and ever part with your legal term you used. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Meredith. Sir? Sorry, I don't know everybody's name. I know I've seen you before, so.
Good evening, Brian Hillens. I live at 4 Asheville Lane. I'll fill out the form afterwards. Dean, I'm just looking for clarity, like you said on the easement. It doesn't have to be the full pond or whatnot, but you also said that there has to be justification for the funds being applied to that easement only. So if it's only 15 feet per se, can you really justify the full 150 to be allocated to that? Nothing you need to answer right now, but that's something I'll be looking for.
Well, I was just I was using 15 feet for.
I know, but just
I
like
meant
what,
that first pond or whatever that only the HOA.
my point is the dredging isn't going to be involved in just that first pond.
Right.
And so if we're limiting only dredging to that easement, we're not going to get the full benefit of the 150.
Got it. Okay, good point. And Brian, if you would, before you leave, fill out the form. Anybody else? Okay. Council, anybody have any more comments?
I do.
Stacy.
Dean, question. So in regards to what they just brought up, we do something in perpetuity. We've got new development that's going to happen. Devil's advocate here, what happens if, you've got silt, you've got water, and now it's going into the ponds? Does the town have any recourse to help them at that point? Or is that a totally different subject? Because I thought we had talked about having the town look at some options at some point to fix some of this stormwater stuff. So
Yeah, so the recourse would be that we would have the right, but not the obligation to do it. So you would avoid the issue that you've had here where you're on
So if
private property and you just can't allocate the funding, can't do the work.
Okay, so new development comes in, they've got stuff coming in, we can then just go in and, we have the right now
Within your
to
drainage,
fix it.
within your drainage easement, that's right. That's right. I mean, we would still maintain our immunities, and so typically, you know, the siltation's not gonna get them there as far as busting through our immunities. And I think we saw that in the previous case as well, even with the TCQ's analysis. And normally, when you're looking at unconstitutional taking, you're looking at damage that comes from flooding, not the opposite direction. And so we know that there's natural flow to creeks and riverbeds and ponds, and that there's going to be erosion. And with every rain, you're probably going to get siltation. And so that's why we have our immunities the way that we do, so that every town, city, and the state doesn't get sued.
I just
and
want to
lose.
make sure that if we're going to do this, we can continue to fix things or help things in the drainage system without having to come back here year after year after year.
We will have established a public purpose that allows you to do that using your municipal drainage utility funds. So that you will not have to go back and reconsider, try to figure out the unconstitutionality of giving a gift to private persons. But it's always within the council can always decide if they want to do the work or not.
Okay.
Jeff?
By writing that document, making this able to happen in the future, is that why it's then would all of a sudden be okay where it's not okay now?
It doesn't belong to the town now.
Right.
When it's an easement, it belongs to the town.
We would then have the right, but not the obligation to, if something was to go
Then it becomes
wrong.
our problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pat. Please, come to the podium, please.
Dennis, you probably know where I'm going with this. I'm not trying to start a fight. God knows I don't want to be here till 11 o'clock at night again. But Dean, two things, Dean. Number one, that you probably don't know. Number one is that our HOA has first of all, we've only been homeowner operated for about 6 years, maybe 7 years. And we have a reserve study. And as a regular course of action, the previous reserve study, we just got a new one literally like 2 weeks ago. But as a previous course of action, every 7 to 8 years, we would dredge the ponds. Ironically, we had just dredged the ponds when all this happened. We are not concerned or worried about normal siltation. We understand and recognize, as Councilwoman Oldham pointed out, that we have an obligation as a part of the plat to maintain the ponds. We will. This was a huge amount of excess siltation that came through, and our argument all along has been, frankly, the town, and several of the council members admitted that in some of these open discussions, the town was liable for this. Now, secondly, my other question is, and you weren't the council attorney, and again, I'm not trying to start a fight, but does the club have an easement for where y'all spent tens of thousands of dollars putting up some gabion baskets? And I know the answer to that, and y'all know the answer to that too. And they damn sure don't have, excuse my French, they darn sure don't have anything in perpetuity. Are you familiar with that project?
Well, I'll say, let me answer your first statement. The town has its immunity. You never busted through the immunity. The town was not liable.
We did that on purpose.
I actually agree.
We did that on purpose, by the way.
I actually agree with David Dodd's memo, which outlined that you didn't have legal liability. And so I understand the legal arguments. I understand there was a lawsuit. And I understand that the people in that lawsuit did have a nice settlement that was way beyond what this waiver would have provided.
What are you talking about? I don't
Okay, I
understand
think
what
we're
you just
talking
said.
two different things.
Yeah, I don't understand what you just
Okay,
said.
so I just I'm making the point, because
Right.
you said that the town was liable. I think you understand that the town was not. I understand that you made that argument.
I didn't say the town was legally liable.
Okay. So you're saying the town was at fault somehow, but not
Oh,
legally?
absolutely.
Okay.
Culpable.
so we understand-
Absolutely culpable.
Is probably.
The town didn't inspect the cycle. We could go back, you weren't here, we have 50 points that the town failed
Okay,
to do.
I think
Or did inappropriately.
I understand what you're saying now.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Ed.
So I don't know if you answered my second point or not, but again, you may not even be aware of that project, because it happened long before you.
That's a separate deal.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't have
if
Right.
if you wish to talk about them after the
Right,
meeting.
but my point is, they're related because there was money spent without an easement, and I just
Okay,
want,
and
you know.
I'm trying to keep it
I understand,
direct
I
to this.
understand, yeah,
All
I
right.
understand, I'm just responding to some
And
of the comments.
Mary Lee, excuse me, I'll, hold on just for a second. Jeff, you had a comment?
I just wanted a clarification. So we go forward with this. We put in the easement. We get it done before the new development starts. We have another event. We have the option to do something, but not the obligation. Is that what you're telling me?
That's right. That's how the easement would be drafted.
So thinking along the same lines, if for whatever reason there was a culpable event that happens, we could start all over and continue talking.
That's right. Which is something that you couldn't do before because of the nature of the private
Got it.
land.
Okay. All right, so it's not a totally, the whole deal is not dead in perpetuity, this one transaction. All right, keep going.
It's the easement that's in perpetuity.
Right, okay. Jeff, anything else?
Well, I have a whole host of different questions about potential future event and our ability to prevent it so that we're not culpable if something happens.
Well, okay, I look at that
I
in
don't
two
think
different
it's
ways.
actually appropriate for this discussion.
No.
Mary Lee, I'll, hold just one second. If another event happens and the same situation occurs where we have some culpability because the town screwed up, then we can start all over the conversations and go for another year in 3-4 hour meetings and talk it out. They have the right to appeal back to us for that. Okay? That's the way I'm understanding it. But we also, depending upon which council it is, does have the right to consider it and take whatever action they deem fit at that time. We can't make a future decision on whatever a future council is going to make. All we can do is deal with this that we've got, the situation we have now and the 150,000 and how do we resolve it? Does that answer? Hopefully. Mary Lee, please, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Mary Lee Hodge.
I appreciate we've talked about the drainage part and the siltation part. But the thing I don't understand is if you're granted a drainage easement in exchange for the $150,000, my understanding in an easement like the utility easement that runs behind my home, that means that the utilities can come in and do whatever they want to that piece of land. They can tear down a fence, they can tear up my landscaping. There's no obligation to repair it. My question is, does a drainage easement allow you to come in and do anything to that part of Huggins Glen's common area? Could you come in and extend those big culverts all the way through, and we'd have to look at culverts instead of a pond? That may be an absurd question, but I'm trying to get the extent of what your rights would be to what is now our common area, so that our board has a better understanding of what they are ceding in our rights to you.
Good question, it's not absurd.
Thank you very much.
Can that language be defined?
Yes, absolutely. And I
Okay.
think that's what,
Mary Lee, did you hear that?
Yeah,
The
can we
answer
define
is
that
not.
language that we just can't just
yeah, this is
willy-nilly?
not, it's not going to be an easement for any and all municipal purposes. And again, you can limit the size and the scope of the easement. We can, those were the reservations I think that you right. So we'll work through that.
I really appreciate that because I have seen times when things have come in and it's hard enough when you have a 200, you can appreciate this if you live in an HOA. It's hard enough to get our 2/3 vote for anything. And so if it was something we had to take into the HOA community at large, our poor board would be really up a creek, if you don't mind me using that phrase.
We are
Creek,
looking for a
pond,
place for a
whatever
water
it is.
slide.
All right. I'm not making a motion, but I'm just talking out loud, okay? But a motion of if the council decided to move forward, which I think I've heard enough to say yes, they would like to, the motion would be to direct staff to create an easement document, work with the HOA. Now, I'm not saying the board, that's for the HOA to determine who's going to work with you. To have a document, preferably by the September 19th, to be presented to council on either the September 25th or the October 9th meeting. Now, Pat, let me just say that you're really close to getting something on, if you guys, big if you guys approve something on the 19th, it's going to be real tight to get it on the September 25th meeting. But it's nothing wrong with setting that as a goal. All right? Is that sufficient motion, or do we want to do something else, or?
Do we have to motion this, or?
No,
Can we just give
Can
direction?
we just direct?
We're just giving town direction. I don't think
Yeah.
we're making a motion.
We're
We're
Okay,
giving
no,
staff,
that's fine.
staff and dean direction.
Okay, so if we're going to do that along the lines of what I said, I'm going to go down the line here and ask for comments on that. Stacy?
I agree, yeah.
Steve?
I agree with giving town direction, everything we
We're
talked
just
about.
giving direction. We're not voting
No.
yes or no.
We ought to be able to put it on the first available agenda, and if it's not ready, then we can pull it from the agenda.
Okay. Brian, let me finish going around first. All right, they come on up. Come on, you can come. Steve?
Jeff.
Jeff?
The best compliment you ever gave him.
It's too late. Go ahead. All right, Jeff, your comments on direction.
As far as directing, I believe that's the correct course of action.
Luann?
Yes, I think we need to direct the town attorney, or interim town attorney.
All right, Brian?
Draft, I'm not through,
Oh, I'm sorry, Steve, just,
to draft the document as he has explained it to us, so that we can escape the traps of the public-private statute that limits what we can do.
mhm.
I'm done.
Man, that
Yeah.
sounded like a motion.
No, we're not making a motion. We're just giving the staff direction, and that's sufficient for tonight. Brian?
Can we open up that direction to not just be looking at an easement, but to look at other ways that the 150 can be awarded or provided as funds to the Hogan's Glen? Because you brought up easement tonight, and obviously there's some concern. Are there other ways to get it done?
So the drainage,
And-
so the stormwater drainage utility fund can only be used for operation and maintenance of the system, funding of pollution abatement, peak flow attenuation devices constructed on stormwater systems, discharging to the surface of the town, and then there's a whole nother list. So when we're talking about expending these funds, there's statutory requirements, and then there's requirements in the ordinance.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying the storm funds, but there's got to be other ways to potentially figure this thing out, other than an easement, because there's some concern with an easement. So what are some other options that the funds can be awarded to Hogan's Glen based on the commitment of the council?
So I just need to know the scope, size of the easement, and the scope of work. And then I can plug it into the easement document.
You
In other
keep bringing up
words, Brian-
easement, but what I'm challenging you on is easement is one way to get it done. You're a lawyer, you're an expert, so I'm asking for the direction of the council to provide staff the direction of looking at not just easement, but other ways to make good on the funds that we're
Well,
already committed
I
to.
asked that very question, right?
Yeah.
About a half hour ago. The dean, I said, is there any other way? Or is we have to do the easement regardless
You
of?
need a public purpose.
Okay.
It has to be on public property.
Can I ask?
Public interest.
Yeah.
Not
All right,
public.
hold on.
works.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brian, I just wanted to say that Dean's been directed to try and be prepared to come to this meeting for exactly what you just said.
Okay,
So it's, when he narrows it down, it's a method of that's how we're going to have to do it to get it done. He supposedly has already looked at other ways. But at the same time, if you got something else, that we just have to have another meeting.
yeah,
Okay.
and just hearing some of the comments of my
No, sure.
neighbors.
Oh, and I fully
there's some
expect it to be a
consternation
lot of
out there
confidence,
about,
but
like,
this is
"Ugh."
all, once again, we're establishing something that we're just talking about and just finding out.
All right,
Okay, Stacy?
thank you.
Okay, on the easement, and am I
assuming that this would then be a public easement?
Yes,
So I want
it's
to,
a public drainage easement. yeah.
right, so does that give the right to the public to go stand on 15
No.
feet? I want to
So-
make sure that we
yes.
maintain the integrity of the HOA
Right.
and their property. I don't
Right.
want people just willy-nilly stand, I can stand on 15 feet.
Well,
Right.
you have an easement in your backyard.
That's
People
right.
can't
No,
just
it'll-
come in your backyard.
Right, okay, I just
It's-
want to make
it's-
sure that that's
it'll-
clear.
Right, it's within a drainage area, it's for drainage purposes only.
Okay.
So again, those are reservations that we can work through.
Yeah. And Dean, let me be very clear. I only use 15 feet for an example, not for, you know.
No,
But
I
the
get
idea is
that.
we don't need
Right.
any other, all we need is two entities, the HOA and the town. Okay? We've given direction, okay? Does anybody in the public wish to continue the conversation? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
What time, Mayor?
Mayor, it's 8:59. You want me to wait till 9?
No.
Okay.
Missed your chance.